Welcome to Open Tables. With your hosts, Cynthia Sue Larson.
But it's okay for everybody to change. It's okay to let things go. And that's really powerful.
Christopher Anatra.
The universe is based on commerce. You know me as the quantum businessman.
Jerry Hicks.
I feel like I've woken up in a parallel dimension where everybody's exactly the same. They look the same memories, generally speaking, but they're different.
And Shane Robinson.
Nobody has all the answers, so everybody's welcome to share their ideas, and it really expands our consciousness when we do that.
Open Tables. Unique perspectives for a new view of reality.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the International Mandela Effect Conference Open Tables for November. This is Season 2, Episode 11, New Directions of the Mandela Effect. We're so glad to have every last one of you guys here with us. I can't tell you how much I miss you guys during the month. It's so awesome. But before we get started, we have a little bit of legal eagle stuff to go through. The content you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe space to express thoughts, ideas, and information. Please note that no copyright infringement is intended with regard to inclusion of short excerpts of material that are included in accordance with fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. I need to learn how to speak as quickly as the mini machines guy, right? The micro machines, you remember that? Fastest talking guy in the world. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and bring in our amazing team here we have with us today, starting with our Vice President, Miss Cynthia Sue Larson. Glad to have you on board, Cynthia. Our treasurer, Mr. Christopher Anatra. Glad to have you on board, Chris. Always a pleasure, sir. Mr. Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence, our secretary. Glad to have you, Shane. Always a pleasure. And together we are the International Mandela Effect Conference team, and we are here to bring you yet another amazing episode. Everybody can go ahead and unmute so we can speak freely. And
Thanks, Jay.
We made it.
And I froze, so there we go. What's up, team? How we been?
Excellent. Doing great.
Yep, great.
Cool. I can't wait for this episode. What's that, Shane?
I said great.
Yeah, and aren't these like, to me, like the timeline merges, Mandela effects, observations in reality, breaking down, like all this stuff is like really intensifying for me. I don't know about you guys, but like, wow.
Oh, yeah. Weird time anomalies. Have you guys had any weird?
Oh, my goodness. I lost 20 minutes the other day. Me and the guy I was working with, we both agreed we lost 20 minutes somewhere.
Wow.
I should feel lucky. I only lost 38 seconds, I think. So.
Yeah. So the thing is, too, is like when you lose time like that, where do you go? Like what's happening? And one of the things that I've been finding, because that happens to me, too, is that, you get amnesia. It's just you're missing time, but what happened to it? But your subconscious knows where you remember, your subconscious knows everything. So I usually do like muscle testing and kinesiology. Did I just go someplace? Where did I go? How long was I there for? Querying my subconscious to get the information. So if anyone else that's watching this show, if you're observing missing time, that could be a technique that you could use as well. That'll help fill in the gaps about what's going on.
Wow. I like that, Chris. Great.
Yeah, that's super cool.
I would like to go ahead and shout out our chat here real quick, as we've got a few people hanging out with us over here. We got Nicola Australia 2, glad to have you, as well as Linda Young, Ann Gaynor, and Jan Engel Smith. Glad to have every one of you guys here in the chat. If you're listening and want to join us in the chat, come on over to YouTube, hop on in. We'll be glad to interact with you also. Also, we got Unbiased and On the Fence, and I happen to know that the IMEC is in the chat too. All right, ladies and gentlemen, shall we get started with this amazing show? What do you guys think?
Yes.
Definitely.
Let's
Let's
do
do
it. All right, producer is already got it ready to go. She is so amazing. Also, our amazing producer, Heather, in the back, got to shout her out. She does such a great job every episode. Can't forget to give her props. But
And wish her a
ladies and
happy
gentlemen-
birthday.
Oh, and a happy birthday. That's right. Her birthday just passed this last month. Absolutely. So happy birthday to our producer, Miss Heather. Wonderful, wonderful. I hope you had a amazing time. Got to switch up my adjectives there. Can't keep saying wonderful. Gets a little annoying. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the show agenda. We are scheduled for approximately 90 minutes. With this kind of agenda, something tells me we may go just a little bit way over. The episode's sponsors is where we will start, and then we will follow into updates from each one of our team members, including yours truly. See what's been going on this amazing month we've had. Then we will get into the Golden Mandy's. By the way, before I go any further, I hope all of you guys in chat also had a wonderful holiday and Thanksgiving. Number 4, what does Fruit of the Loom know? Ooh, what does Fruit of the Loom know? Do we have some evidence on that? Stick around, we'll find out. Ghost apples. What is a ghost apple? This sounds fascinating. I've heard of ghosts. What's a ghost apple, folks? Second Pearl Harbor attack. Wait, what? I know some of you scratching your head. I'm doing the same thing. I can't wait to get to that one, as well as the Atlanta Race Massacre of 1906. Wow. All right, folks, we got some historical stuff here. A lost Beatles album. The Beatles have released another album, ladies and gentlemen. You heard that right. Number 9, the Beatles on Abbey Road crossing pictures. So we've got some Mandela effects, it looks like, on Abbey Road. Oh, that'd be a good name for a show, Mandela Effects on Abbey Road. Number 10, rectangular pupils. Pupils, horses, sheep, goats. You guys need to stick around for that one if you're an animal lover for sure. This one is very trippy, I can assure you of that. Especially when you have the animals that are running in circles, we'll be following up that with. And then supernumerary rainbows, more JFK anomalies, as if there weren't already a basket load. And then some questions about the founders of McDonald's in the mailbag. That is our entire show agenda, folks. Like I said, scheduled 90 minutes. We probably will make it a little bit way more than 90 minutes.
It's almost a tradition now, isn't it?
It really is. These shows keep getting longer and longer and better, which goes to show there's so much Mandela Effect content to cover.
Yeah, it really is the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it?
We should also plan an intermission for some of these shows, right?
We keep on. We're going to have to, for real.
Yeah, seriously.
I know about halfway through, some of us have to turn our cams off and step away. I've noticed that trend myself.
Absolutely.
The Mandela Effect. What an amazing, amazing phenomenon. What is our sponsors, our first sponsor here today? What do we have here? The black-naped pheasant pigeon. Oh, a Lazarus. I love the Lazarus species. For you guys, those who don't know, Lazarus species is a species that was gone extinct and all of a sudden has come back to life. And this is actually very, very much more common than I thought it would be. I've got a list 1.5 miles long since the Mandela Effect started of all these Lazarus species. It's insane. There are tons of them. So tell us about this species, folks.
Yeah, this one has come back after 140 years. So that's pretty remarkable. Maybe not the world record, but it's up there. And someone brought it to our attention. It's got this gold color. So we can start to see a bit of the golden timeline showing up.
I agree. We keep having these Lazarus with the gold coming back. That's not the first time we've seen that either. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say too, so this isn't the first Lazarus bird that we've talked about. So one of the things that like I'm always being observant of and aware of are the returns of some of the big ones, like the dodo bird, the passenger pigeon. Like, so if this one came back after 140 years, chances are there could, as times progress and these timelines, the way I see it, keep merging, I think it's going to be almost inevitable. So everyone be on standby for some really cool Lazarus animals coming up in the future, I believe.
We've seen quite a few cool ones come up so far.
Absolutely. And I love the gold too, as well.
And this
Like a
is
cape.
from, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said it's like a gold cape. I like it.
Oh, it kind of is, isn't it?
Yeah.
The way the sun's hitting it, that's neat.
Mhm.
This is in New Guinea then, right?
Papua New Guinea.
Yes.
So I find that interesting considering Australia is now butted up against New Guinea.
Yeah, the weird stuff with the location of Australia and New Guinea and even New Zealand. That was one we talked about with that 4-hour conversation when the first time we ever talked, Jerry.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did. The tree conversation, it was 6 hours, a tree conversation.
Right.
Conversation about falling trees. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that actually did occur. But with the Mandela effect and the continents being so much closer, that changes a lot of different dynamics,
Yeah.
including the kind of species that would be available on either island or on either land mass. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something to be observant of, because as the geography changes, are we like in another timeline, literally on a different type of world, so to speak? It would make sense that there would be these animals that would follow, that would be part of the data that's coming in with that timeline. So in other areas that we've noticed this, like Sicily changing position, being closer to Italy, the islands of Corsica and Sardinia growing to be an enormous size than I ever remember. It would also make sense that there'd be other changes like this too in the animals that live there.
Like this animal is only found on Ferguson Island, this particular black-naped pheasant pigeon. And I don't remember a Ferguson Island, but I'm not an expert on New Guinea. But this could be part of the geographic changes like you're mentioning. So it's good for us to make a note of that mentally right now, because you never know. This could change. We've seen that before. So everybody who's watching, just notice now we're saying it's on Ferguson Island. So if later that's no longer the case, that it's on much more, it's always been who knows what, some other place.
Perhaps we can come back to I lost my train. Never mind. Perhaps we can come back to our show later on and that Ferguson won't be there, right?
Right, exactly.
It will have changed retroactively.
We've seen that with other IMEC talks, such as Shane's famous love map.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the map change, and all of the islands that showed up on there, and then we have the string of islands, which seems to be like there's a lot of activity going on in that area of the Maldives Islands, and that's actually where one of the Mandela affected animals came from, the 6-foot wingspan bats that we heard about in the very beginning. That comes from the Maldives. So it's like the whole island and some of the species are just brand new to our reality, and that's crazy. Yeah.
Fascinating is what it is to me.
Yeah,
Absolutely
that's fascinating.
When you've got the different predator and prey or the different food sources, once again, with these geographical changes, you're going to have a differential in these things, which could cause a differential in the animal population.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just mention too that Ferguson Island is not some small little island. It's actually pretty big. It's 555 square miles.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the largest islands in the Papua New Guinea region. So this is not one little island that popped up. It's one of the larger islands in that area.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is one of those new directions to pay attention to with the Mandela effect, which we'll be talking about a lot of direction. But the idea of directions here that I'm referring to is just that you might see things showing up that never existed before too. In this case, it's an extinct animal, but sometimes it really could be like a whole new island that we'd never heard of, that kind of thing.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull up the slides. I didn't have them prepped pre-show like I should have. Next slide, please.
I was chatting.
Oh wow! Is
Check
this
it
a
out.
porcupine gone wrong? What happened to this little dude? The
Somebody's playing with
lowland.
CRISPR again. What's going on here?
Man, I tell you what, they keep coming up with some crazy stuff off the CRISPR, right? He looks quite crispy indeed, right? The lowland streaked tenrec. I'm not even going to pretend to try to pronounce those words. The lowland streaked tenrec is a small tenrec, whatever that is, found in Madagascar. Belongs to the family Tenracidae. They really make these words where you're not supposed to say them. I swear to goodness. In the order Afrosuricidia, sure, we'll go with that. Suricida, the more specifically to the subfamily, yeah, no, we're not doing that again. Its natural habitats are in tropical lowland rainforest in northern and eastern parts of Madagascar. But this guy has something kind of original to the mammal species, right, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
It makes sounds with its quills. So it rubs body parts together the way an insect would to generate sounds that it can communicate with its others. I guess it's a mode of communication with other tenrecs in the area. And this is a tiny little guy, right? It's not very big.
He looks little, very little.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't we kind of do that as humans?
This is rubbing things together, though, like an insect. We don't really rub things together.
That's fair.
It's like insects have scratchy bits, and so they'll scratch.
Like crickets, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And clapping hands together, that's something you might see, like a seal clapping its fins together.
That's fair.
But this is like an insect kind of a behavior where it's just rubbing its, I can't do it, but rubbing its quills together. I don't have quills.
I knew we forgot something. Dadgummit.
But those colors, that's really cool looking.
And it's got the gold on it once again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and for an animal like this, that a lot of us would consider at least the personal Mandela effect, you wonder why there was never any kind of cartoons or animation or stuffed animals, or when there's some kind of a unique and cute type of animal like this, like a porcupine mated with a bumblebee. And this is
I like that analogy, Chris.
Yeah.
But you're right. Where are the stuffed animals for these little things? Although that might be a little bit of a spiky one, but still.
Yeah.
It's quite fascinating to see these animals literally just turn up in the timeline. Now, I will caveat, I don't know every animal. I'm not an animal person. I don't study them, but I've seen a whole lot of things that I don't remember. All right. Speaking of that, what is our next slide, Miss Producer? Golden tulip. A lot of gold this episode. Definitely a direction we've seen it going for a while. Plant hunters discovered a new and unusual species of tulips during an expedition in Kyrgyzstan. Okay, so there was a discussion pre-show about Kyrgyzstan. How many of you on the panel have heard of this country before today?
Just in getting ready for the show. So just for the show is the only time I've heard of it.
Yeah, I never heard of it.
I think I might have heard of it, but I'm not sure.
I actually knew somebody from this country. I worked with them at Dairy Queen. Shout out to Svetlana if you're actually watching this. We actually used to discuss this country because I asked her where she was from, and I didn't realize when she had told me the name of it that it actually had a G in it, which kind of really threw me off as just the way it's spelled. But this isn't new to me, only because years ago I met somebody back in 2012 who actually was from this country. This comes from the Soviet fall. I know it was part of the Soviet Union at one point. A lot of people say this is a Mandela effect for them. They don't remember this country. Can't say I blame them. It's kind of a weird name. That would kind of stick out to anybody who see it stuck out to me with the G in it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That would be kind of one that people would notice. What do you guys think before we go on?
I have a question, Jerry. How long ago did you meet this person?
So it was around 2012.
2012.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
when I worked at Dairy Queen. Just happened to be that time.
Gotcha.
So
that country became independent in the 1991, roughly.
Yes.
But it was first named or created in 1917 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, it reminds me of the country of Turkmenistan, which I had never heard of until the last 4 or 5 years. And Turkmenistan is where they have the golden metallic horses. And I believe in an episode way back, we talked about those. But there was another golden animal from that region of the world that for a lot of people, I just had never heard of before.
And what was the golden animal there?
Okay, so what we have here, you're talking about on the screen, right, Cynthia? Or did I miss something?
In the other region that Chris was talking
go ahead,
about.
Chris.
Oh, it was the golden metallic horses.
Right. Now I remember.
They actually look like they're metal. They look like gold. Yeah, they're beautiful.
That was really strange. I do remember that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'd never seen anything like it.
And an interesting comment came up in our YouTube comments that this is definitely a different coloration pattern in nature than one would expect from pure camouflage, objective. The goal of an animal being, if it's prey to some other predator, that it should hide. So a golden horse doesn't really hide, especially metallic looking. And a lot of these animals that we're seeing that have the gold on them, whether it's this tiny little tenrec, it's got pokey, bristles, but it's it's got that yellow color. So these animals stand out.
And I've made that point many times myself about these animals that are, especially the white ones, for instance, that aren't albino, they're just white. It doesn't match the natural camouflage that nature would generally go with.
Right.
So whoever said that, shout out to you, props. I fully agree with that statement.
Yep.
So the tulip here, fascinating thing. DNA testing at Cambridge University established it was something completely different. Reminds me of that Monty Python. Now for something completely different. It was found by scientists from the university's Botanic Garden, Fauna and Flora International, and local teams. So there you go, a golden tulip, ladies and gentlemen. Yet another piece of evidence that we're headed right down the golden timeline. That's right. I love seeing this. Lots of gold we've covered over the years we've been doing. 2 years now we've been doing this. We've covered a ton of gold animals. Go check out last year's videos for those that are wanting content when we're not on the air. We did a series of animal videos at the end of the year last year with all the Lazarus colored and the different variety of Mandela Effect animals that we have found through our shows. So definitely something to go back and check out. I know I enjoyed those episodes myself, especially the Lazarus one. I'm a bit of a sucker for those. Go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, me too. And I love the geometry in this flower here.
Ooh, that's true. I didn't even notice that. Yeah. It is quite balanced, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And let's move on to our next sponsor. We've got a lot of sponsors here this week, folks. Some Harlequin frogs. Harlequin. What a name, what a name. Are they as evil as her? Let's hope not. Presumed extinct. We've got another Lazarus one. So a Lazarus Harlequin. That sounds scary. Have been rediscovered across Central and South America. A group of bejeweled frogs is making a bejeweled frog. What? 1,000 brightly colored species. Okay, can somebody on the team tell me about this creature? This is fascinating.
Well, they've been presumed extinct, and so it's a whole category of these frogs. I think for some reason, we were talking before the show that some people are calling them Harlequin toads also. So this is weird because frogs and toads are quite different. So I'm not an expert on these particular frogs, but that Harlequin pattern is a diamond-shaped pattern. So if you're wondering what's that about, it's like when you see people in costumes with red and white and black, and they've got the diamond-shaped thing going on. that you can see that pattern on the skin. Some of these frogs are brightly colored, and it's just great that they're making a comeback, that they apparently may have gone extinct. And I guess we couldn't get any specific details on which ones definitely went extinct and for how long. But just the fact that they're coming back, that they're doing better, is good news. And I think the coloration is very interesting, that we're seeing some brightly colored frogs. Again, probably not a good objective to have bright colors when you're a frog and everything eats frogs, but there they are. This one stands out because it's a little bit black, the one in the picture, but it's shiny and you can kind of see the pattern on the skin. So it's a pretty unique animal. I don't remember hearing about Harlequin frogs ever, so this one's new to me. So it's both new, possibly returned from extinction, and matching that trend that we're noticing, that it's got the bright colors in some cases, and therefore not blending in, but rather standing out.
Yeah, is it just me, or does the shape of its head look a little different than a normal frog or a
It does. I'm with you, Chris. I'm right there with you on that one.
Looks like a turtle head or snake head or something.
Almost, huh?
Yeah, when you go online, Cynthia was mentioning between there's Harlequin frogs and Harlequin toads.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, like, one of the ways you can tell the difference is that a frog always looks like it's wet, and a toad is more like dry, wart-like, with warts on it. So, but I think there are other differences between frogs and toads, but the Harlequin exists in both frogs and toads, which is interesting. Again, I never heard of that before.
And ladies and gentlemen, I just learned something brand new to me. I did not know that was the difference between the frog and the toad, is the glistening moisture effect of the skin.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah.
Wow. No, that's not a Mandela. I just didn't know. That's ignorance is what that was.
What we talk about might just be ignorance, but I think a lot of it is not. So.
But that is very intriguing for sure. Speaking of intriguing, let's trigger on to the next slide, please, ma'am. The small the small pogonia. Another Lazarus species, ladies and gentlemen, one that we have found in Vermont. We don't find a lot of these in America. It has happened from time to time, but most of them we hear about are overseas. This one was apparently, I'm so glad I don't have a show tonight. My tongue has decided it's done already. A rare orchid thought to be extinct was rediscovered after 120 years in Vermont. Federally threatened species has been rediscovered after the plant was last spotted in the state 120 years ago. So definitely goes into the Lazarus for being over 100 years gone, and then all of a sudden it comes back, right?
Yes. And it seems substantial when it's over 100 years that it's gone missing, and then it's back again. So,
I think it looks like a fairy. I like this image.
It does.
It does, doesn't it?
It's like a dancing fairy with
Yes.
the arms up to the sides.
Yeah. I can even see a face and everything. That's cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it
wow.
is.
As many times we looked at this picture pre-show and whatnot, like now it jumps out, right?
It's beautiful.
She's got an audience.
Like, Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies now plays in my head. Yeah. But again, we have a number of Lazarus species that, like I said, I've documented for a couple years now, and the list is absolutely amazing. We keep seeing these animals, creatures, other species of different types come back into our timeline, or we're going into theirs. The question can be argued either way, but the fact remains that they do now exist.
Yes. And I think that even when we had that golden flower with the pretty pattern, that last one that we were showing from that country I can't pronounce, that, somewhere in Russia, that's another new direction from the Mandela effect, where something's popping in, quite possibly. And biologists don't usually acknowledge that phenomenon, that it could be something that is brand new, that just appeared. We tend to think, well, we just never saw it before. But when we're seeing so many extinct animals coming back, then it makes sense to me that we should expect things to just pop in. And we'll be talking about some examples within the arts, of course, in this show today.
Definitely some new directions we're finding also with this. Gold, for instance. This isn't it gold, even though it's got a little goldish green at the top. This isn't gold per se. But a lot of these Lazarus are coming back with this golden color in them somehow, whether it be on the fur or some aspect of them has a golden touch to it. Not all of them, but a majority. Would you guys agree with that?
A lot of them, yeah.
A lot of them do, yeah.
Love that.
And I think that is, once again, as Cynthia suggests, heading into the golden timeline. How good can it get, Slide? She is so good. Lazarus species, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I think we have found so far, and it's questionable, we got to go back and see our other ones, the oldest Lazarus species thus far, ladies and gentlemen. A clam presumed extinct for 40,000 years has been found alive.
I think this has got to be the record, because I think the other one that I was thinking might be a contender would be the coelacanth, which is a large fish, as big as a person. But I don't think it's been missing for 40,000 years. I think it's some much smaller number of years, probably. Not sure, but this.
So I think we have found the record for the oldest species to return to reality, which that really like opens up. Could we have dinosaurs coming back? I mean, really?
Yeah, this is the oldest animal. There might be trees that have come back. I think we had a tree from
Yeah, we did have a
the
tree.
Middle East, and that may be another possible contender. But this, I think, may be farther, because that was from biblical times, and that's not 40,000 years, right?
Right.
Just to add to what Jerry is saying, I would not be surprised if there are islands like Jurassic Park type concepts that are kept secret, perhaps even the military or other organizations know about, where there are dinosaurs. And, they may not be genetically created like they did on Jurassic Park, but they could actually be someplace out there that we're not aware of. There's just so much in our world we're not aware of. So to me, everything's on the table.
I think the Mandela Effect gives us a chance that an island such as you're describing could just pop into reality. It just might suddenly be there.
Well, there's plenty of choices, because I've seen dozens and dozens of islands just seemingly just pop up on the map out of nowhere, that I know weren't there. So what kind of life is there,
Yes.
Exactly.
What if Jurassic Island did pop into existence? And I know it sounds like I'm being facetious, but I'm not. I'm being very, very serious right now.
We got Rainbow Mountains, man. Nothing's off the table.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, we got a creature from 40,000 years ago that has popped back into reality. It's not a hard stretch to say that I don't want to use T-Rex, a pterodactyl, or those little super tall lizards that spit the poison whose name I can't remember to save my life. These things would come into the reality. Like, it's not a far stretch to say that we find one of these things on an island somewhere, and a dinosaur species that we thought was extinct for millions of years, but oh my God, here it is.
Yeah, it'd be like saltwater fish being in freshwater, or something like that.
That would be kind of fascinating, wouldn't it, Shane? That would be very strange. When I first seen the name of this, and for those sitting at home, you're not alone if this just happened to you, I thought it said Cynthia for a moment. Cynthia Cookie. It's actually Cymatioa, whatever, Cymatioa cookie. Okay, I can't pronounce the word, but it's not Cynthia, folks. I can tell you that. I first seen her name when I looked at it.
I thought it was like, it reminded me of cymatic, like the
like you make sounds and then it makes patterns.
Yeah,
like little dancing things in the sound waves.
Yeah.
Ooh, you're right.
I think this clam might have been found in the United States too, just off the coast of California, and it's got rainbows.
Cymatioa cooki.
Yeah, I just want to add too that in one of our past shows, we talked about the capybara, and people were telling me that in their old timeline, the capybara had gone extinct, like as long as 40 or 50,000 years ago, and all we had were fossils. So for some people, the capybara was like completely like, wow, that was a Lazarus animal. But in this timeline, it's, you know, it's always been here. So there's those type of concepts as well. And based upon, just I'm going to add one more thing to the whole dinosaur type concept we were talking about. If you guys remember Admiral Byrd, and he had one of his trips to Antarctica, where he has like these it was a private diary where he found this 45-mile hole in the ice that he flew into, and he saw what he said were mammoths. So yeah,
woolly mammoth, yes sir.
Yeah, so all these types of things, people just keep in mind. There could be so much on this planet, especially in Antarctica, these islands that are yet to be, you know, known to the public.
I fully agree with that, Chris.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no telling what they've been hiding from us. And when it comes to like the inner earth and whatnot, that's a whole nother can of worms right there.
Exactly.
But the fact remains, it could be. It still could exist on this earth. Bible can't even get that part right. So,
yeah, and by the way, a big shout out to everyone watching us on Inner Earth. Hey guys, we know you're out there.
Shout out to Garth and all you guys over there, right?
Yeah.
Over there or in there? In there, right?
Yeah, in there.
Long live the king of the world. Scientists presumed this particular clam species extinct 40,000 years ago and have only found fossils. So this is the first living example they've ever found. Is that correct?
As far as I know, so far, and you know how this goes. Maybe later they'll say, no, there was another one. But as far as I know, this is it. But yeah.
Well, I love the last line of this. Here we go, folks. This is Mandela Effect in its truest form. Researchers still don't know how the thing evaded science for so long.
Yeah.
Fascinating. We don't understand. It's like it just popped into reality. It did.
Occam's razor, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to our next sponsor if we have one. I can't remember how many. Oh, yeah. Oh, what? It's almost like a saltwater creature being found in freshwater, Shane.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm like
You're psychic, I swear
prophet.
To goodness. The jellyfish is a powerful spirit animal, inviting us to go with the flow and not attempt to go our own way, but rather rely more fully on faith. Now, this is fascinating. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about a freshwater jellyfish. You heard that right.
Yeah.
Freshwater jellyfish. I've never heard of this before. I like to think when I go out to my local lake or my local creek, the jellyfish is the last thing I got to worry about getting stung by.
Exactly.
I'm not in the ocean. But apparently I'm wrong. Is this right, folks?
Yeah, and you probably won't even feel it if you do.
Oh, I bet I would feel something.
Yeah, and if we want to now, we have a video that we can play that kind of explains it.
Let's do that.
Yeah, you can see how you could have these right in front of you and not notice. So.
Miles away from the nearest, thousands of miles away from the nearest body of salt water, but jellyfish have been found in West Michigan.
Who knew? 24-hour News 8's Ellen Baca went into the water with 2 scuba divers in a Kent County lake where hundreds of these things were spotted earlier this week.
Even though the typical season for freshwater jellyfish has passed, some divers are still finding them in Michigan lakes.
With the leaves changing and the water chilling, this weekend, Will Wilder and his son Will Jr. were ready to wrap up scuba season.
We were trying to get one last dive in, pulling the raft.
When we were out there digging around for the anchor, my oldest son starts pointing in the water.
I noticed this little thing and it was moving and I was, what is that?
There, in a spot called Scram Lake, something was floating, drifting, swaying in the water.
And I'm pointing at it, and my dad didn't get it.
He finally took his hand behind it and cupped it, and I could see, sure enough.
Lo and behold, it's a jellyfish.
So I start looking around me because now I know what I'm looking for, and they were everywhere.
What Wilder and his son saw is relatively rare. A bloom of freshwater jellyfish. These tiny, translucent swimmers can be found in freshwater lakes all over the country, but they're so small, they can be hard to spot.
And out of all the years that I've lived here, I've never seen freshwater jellyfish in the lake.
Now, 4 days later, we suit up and get ready to get in. A process which is harder than it looks.
I'm like almost out of breath. It's a struggle.
The water is murky.
Ready? All right, here goes nothing.
And at first, we have no luck. Then, swimming in the shallow water, first one, then more. These freshwater jellies are only the size of a penny.
There he is over in the corner.
These can sting, but the zap is so slight, a human wouldn't even notice.
We got 2 jellyfish, 1 in each jar.
It's reasons like this Will Wilder started diving in the first place.
A couple years ago, I had a stroke, which was kind of a close call, and I thought, man, it's time to start doing some of these things in life that I always wanted to do that I hadn't done yet.
To make new family memories, like filling jars full of jellies at a lake he's lived in for most of his life.
According to the USGS, freshwater jellyfish can be found in dozens of West Michigan lakes. So when the weather turns warmer again, happy hunting. On Scram Lake, Ellen Baca, 24-Hour News 8.
So there's a lot you can pick up by like interpreting like that video and what they were talking about, because the father and son, they were scuba divers, right? And they lived by that lake most of their lives, and they'd never seen this before. So yeah, so there's something to. I personally, like, I've only ever heard of saltwater jellyfish. To me, the freshwater phenomena is really interesting. And at the beginning of the thing, they said it was a rare occurrence, but they say you could find it in all the lakes in the area. So I don't know if that classifies.
And it has its own season, jellyfish season in the lakes of Michigan. What?
Yeah.
So I've got family all over Michigan. I've got friends who go to Michigan quite a bit. I've never heard of jellyfish season.
No. This is brand new to me too.
The chat thinks it's quite fascinating too. A lot of wows coming out of the chat. Interestings. Freshwater jellyfish, says Dead GBK, crazy. I have to agree. Absolutely crazy. I would like to, and I jokingly said lake. I'm staying out of Lake Michigan, folks, and I would suggest you do the same. But it's pretty neat that they can't actually hurt you. I see what you were saying now, Shane. I didn't watch the video pre-show, so I didn't know that was actually in there. They're so tiny that even if they sting you, they really don't cause any harm. Again, fascinating. You don't see this in nature. Maybe the granddaddy longlegs whose teeth can't really bite us per se, but there's not a lot of creatures that don't have defenses against humans, for instance.
Sorry, Jerry's like, nothing? Come on, give me something here. Help me out here.
Leaving me hanging here, guys.
Sorry, I'm like captivated by chat. We got Joe says Tartarian sauce. And then we got Sherry, or Overprotected 11 says, oh, I saw someone's outside camera film a miniature dino sprint across her yard. So
wow. So maybe I wasn't far off with that after all.
And Anna wants to know, any freshwater SpongeBobs?
Yeah.
I haven't found any yet. We're keeping our eye out. It's not off the table, not by any means whatsoever. As you pointed out earlier, nothing is off the table at this point, Shane.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, when reality can change right before your very eyes, then anything can happen, And
anything else is totally like acceptable at that point.
Yes.
Right.
Even ghosts seem par for the course at that point, right?
Yeah, that's why we want to stay in the how good can it get frame of mind.
How good can it
so we're
get?
creating
Absolutely.
as much beauty as we can.
By the way, guys, over in the chat, while we are in the chat, if you have any questions through the episode, go ahead and throw them in the chat. We are monitoring it. We are grabbing questions for our Q&A later. So definitely feel free to throw those in there. We've got a couple so far, and we will have many more, I hope, by the end of the show, so we can have something to go into the Q&A with. Again, keep that in mind. Throw your questions in anytime. We are watching. Speaking of watching, almost reacted to the wrong thing there. Let's go ahead and jump to our next slide. Is that we do have another sponsor. Okay, this here is absolutely gorgeous. I didn't find this. This come about us just a couple days ago, as a matter of fact. This really came across our radar really, really recently. I'm going to go ahead and throw this to Cynthia, I do believe is where this one came from.
Yeah, I have a friend that brought it to my attention, and this happened recently, just in August, a couple months ago in Bulgaria. Someone managed to capture a photograph of this so-called solar halo. And what it is, I'd say it's a pretty rare phenomenon because I've never heard of it, never seen a picture of it, but it happens when there are cirrus clouds, the CIRRUS clouds that happen to have ice crystals, and somehow you get this kind of a circular halo effect around the sun. And because in this series of photos, or one photo at different levels of magnification, you can see that that's a halo forming around the sun as it's, I think, setting here at the horizon. And because of the water, the body of water, it's just spectacular. To me, it looks like an angelic figure with the wings upraised. Really brings back that feeling of the golden sun that so many of us miss ever since the sun kind of went white. But lately, maybe we're starting to see some golden patterns, and it's one of the most beautiful sky phenomenon that I've ever seen. It does, to me, indicate that we're headed toward the golden timeline, that things, no matter what they may look like, you can stay focused on how good can it get, and together we go, together we grow. So it's a very positive sign.
Yeah, it gives you that return of Christ vibe, the sun coming on the cloud, you know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
That's cool.
I love the fact it doesn't reflect it in the water the way it looks in the sky. You can still see the reflection, more tightly in on it now that I'm looking on a bigger screen than I've seen it the first time. But again, you don't see that huge U shape in the water. You only see it in the sky.
Right. And that could be a factor of the angle. That's what scientists would say. Well, clearly that only happens because the angle of reflection is different than the angle to the ice crystals that are in the cirrus cloud that you're looking at directly.
Yeah, so the clouds are actually way closer, of course, in the sun. So it's like,
yes,
we're seeing like beyond it as it's bouncing underneath it, maybe,
Didn't we have something a couple months ago where they said it was ice crystals in a cirrus cloud also?
Yes, we've heard this
Those
before.
laser-looking things that shoot.
Mm-hmm. We've heard this.
What were those things called?
Remember the square clouds? I think they were.
Yeah. So it's starting to sound to me like ice crystals and cirrus clouds is the equivalent of swamp gas on Jupiter, right?
Exactly.
Exactly what I was thinking.
That's what I was thinking that too.
It's kind of the go-to,
Now that's what everybody's going to say. It's it's the ice crystals and the cirrus clouds. Yeah, right.
And if you put a light on it this way, it does this, and it does that way. And look, guys, it's only going to do so much.
I want to mention too that about 30 minutes ago, I got a text alert on my phone that we're currently in a G1 class minor solar storm right now. So the sun, I think a lot of people are noticing that the sun is like literally changing. Like I think the sun is evolving, sending us all of this energy, upgrade DNA codes, all these different things. And I believe that it's only going to keep intensifying.
That makes 5 or 6 shows in a row where we have noted on the date of the show that we have a flare come off the sun.
Yeah, it's actually not, in this case, it's not a flare. It's actually high-speed solar winds that have come
from a black hole then, right?
Yeah, like from a coronal hole or like from a plasma filament.
Oh, yeah.
That lifted off. Hole. Yeah, but right. Yeah, no, exactly. But the sun is there's
That's
so
what it
many-
looks like under the. By the way,
Right,
it looks
right,
like a
right.
black hole right in the middle of the sun. The corona hole
right.
screens.
Black hole sun. Oh, wait.
Yeah, and I think these solar codes are literally doing things that are affecting people. That it's affecting our reality. It's affecting people's personalities. There's so many things that are happening, and I think the sun and the effect that solar rays are getting, and also these other cosmic exotic rays that the Earth is being bathed in right now, is having like an effect on these Mandela effects. Just for one thing, as one example.
Well, looking at society, I'd say it's having more of an effect than that, but
Yeah. Yeah, like things are breaking down and being exposed. It's almost like as we're entering this golden age, like it's also like the age of truth. And all these things that have been hidden, I think are going to start to be revealed.
which is going to be bumpy and rough. You're going to have times where people are going to lose their minds over the information they find, or they're going to stand up and protest against it. And as bad and scary and horrible as that's going to sometimes look, it's going to lead to a much more golden event in the end, much more opportunity, much more learning, much more knowledge, much more freedom for humanity, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
growth can be uncomfortable. Yeah.
But we have support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think too, as these things are happening, like physically, I think it's important that we keep our bodies moving. You know, we have some kind of regular exercise plan, like all these things that we can do ourselves to make it so that we can become stronger and more resilient as all these things crumble around us. I think our own personal energy fields need to be like really strong and solid. And I know I've been doing that personally myself too. I've been working out more, getting back into running again, really looking at my diet. So those are the types of things too. Like I encourage people, like especially now going into the future, pay attention to. It's going to be really important for us to be strong.
Yes.
Great advice.
Yeah, I'm getting back into exercising too. Now that I'm mostly healed from the whole long COVID thing.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody that's dealing with long COVID, don't exercise when you've got that. You have to wait till you get better, obviously.
Right.
Definitely a good piece of advice to follow for sure.
Yeah, and Cynthia and I both did a video that you can watch on either one of our channels that offers some.
I would also suggest, if you've been a part of any medical experimentation as of recent, to cool down on the exercise too.
Yeah. And take your quercetin.
Trying to put that as tactfully as possible. I'm sure everybody understands what I'm saying. Speaking of understanding, let us understand what our next sponsor is. What a beautiful sun. I love this. We don't have any more sponsors. Our next sponsor is us, Quercetin. There you go, Shane. Shane has a bottle ready to go.
Yeah, let me show you guys.
Oh, that's great. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, some people have trouble spelling it. There it is. That's for everybody.
Quercetin for those listening and not able to see the screen.
It's for good health. It helps prevent cancer, helps prevent myocarditis, helps prevent strokes.
Yeah.
You may have heard of some of these things. We'll just leave it at that.
And actually, we had another Mandela effect.
Nice.
This is actually good too. We talked about this.
Oh, yes, that's a good one.
Turmeric. Yes, I remember turmeric.
Yeah. I got my sister with that, but I could hear her clicking away in the background. I'm like, no, it's actually turmeric now. And I could hear her wanting to prove me wrong and Googling it while we're talking. I'm like, you're not going to find it as turmeric. You know what I mean? But, yeah.
Right. Yeah, if you really want to go for it, then that's another good one. There are two more as long as we're mentioning them. That's green tea, if people are able to do that. Some people can't do green tea. And then resveratrol. Those are your top
look
four.
at that.
Those are your top four anti-amyloid. There we go. Thank you, Shane.
Resveratrol. Resveratrol.
Yeah, there you go. So you get the spelling, everybody.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with remdesivir.
Cancel. We are not recommending that.
Right.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
We should get like one of the supplement companies to like sponsor us. Like enter IMEC, 10% off. Yeah.
Yeah, no specific brand or anything. And you actually said that would be 2 of those courses in tablets. If you really need it, you can double it, I guess, to 1,000 milligrams a day, you were saying? 'Cause I
Yeah.
usually just do 500 for preventive stuff.
For
But
quercetin, nowadays I would recommend 1,000's safe for most adults usually.
Mhm.
And quercetin's the one I recommend. Doesn't seem to have a problem for most people.
very good.
So now that we've got our medical update for what it is, by the way, we are not medical
Yeah.
professionals. Do not take this as medical advice whatsoever. This is what we do, what we use, what we've decided to intake in our bodies. If you decide to follow us, that is completely on you. Again, this is not medical advice by any means whatsoever.
Yeah, we're not medical professionals, and these are just suggestions.
Yeah.
Correct. These are what we do. And if you'd like to follow along, that's up to you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that disclaimer out of the way, you got to love the disclaimers. We've got a load of them. Cynthia Sue Larson, how has your Thanksgiving month been? Did you have a good Thanksgiving? What's going on in your world?
It's been great. I've well, it was small, but I had a series of get-togethers with family, usually small ones, so we didn't have a big gathering. My parents are in the process of moving, and my family's kind of spread out, but it was good. I've got a son who's going to be moving to Sweden soon, so just lots of moves. It seems like people are really moving around the world these days. And this month has been fun. I went on an adventure that we filmed with a friend going up to one of our local grid crossover points. There will be a YouTube video, and people who follow the Wisdom Keepers channel, it's Melinda. So Melinda and I, she was driving, we filmed it, and I'm holding 2 dowsing rods, very much like Hamish Miller used to do when he would film things. But I never saw that when I was buying his books. This is because it was before the internet, really. So I'd send a $20 bill in an envelope to England. He'd send me an autographed book back. And then eventually I made a trip to England dowsing, just to leave it to intuition to guide me on my adventures through the United Kingdom, to follow the sun and the serpent is what he called it. And so thanks to his work, Rory Duff is another big fan of Hamish Miller. And in the spirit of Hamish Miller, I was going on an expedition up to our local Mount Diablo. So you can look for that video coming up. It'll be on the Wisdom Keepers channel with Melinda. So it's in some sort of production now. And I think she interviewed you, the quantum businessman. So I think Chris will be coming up too. She mentioned that. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Same here. Yeah, it was good.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and I've got some other news I put in our private chat. Maybe Heather can copy the link over.
It's in there already. It's over in the main chat.
Thank you. Well, that is going to be, if you follow my newsletter, Reality Shifters, big news is we've got our song that was written by myself and Lisa Vivian, and it also features Caleb Jose, and it's in the running for the International Songwriting Competition, which is kind of amazing. So I don't think anybody votes on it. It'll be, I don't know how they judge these things, but I'll keep you posted if it wins. But I think just being in the running is a win. So I feel honored that we have the song in the first place and that people can go and listen to it and hopefully feel uplifted.
Stick around after the show, by the way, Cynthia. I heard from Ms. Vivian the other day. There's something I want to discuss with you about that.
Okay, good. And then, I've got some other updates from my newsletter. It's always very full, packed with things. I know we've got Sherry in the chat, it looks like. And so I've got a story from her that was very profound, personal, and meaningful. So that's the November 2022 issue of Reality Shifters. And she shares just an experience. I'm not going to spoil it because it's so much fun to read it. But it starts off a little bit sad and poignant and in a place that was painful for Sherry, but then she pulled through it and saw the power and the deeper spiritual meaning of what happened. And then the other interesting things in that newsletter, Loretta Lynn, she recently is another person who seems to have died more than once. And so it's one of those things where people remember, wait a minute, didn't she die before? And then the actress Marla Gibbs, who some people might remember from being a TV actress. Here's a picture of her. I'm trying to remember the show that she was on. It was, I think, the Jeffersons sitcom, if you remember her from the Jeffersons. So that's another one where it's a famous actress who's alive again. People remember she died, but apparently she's not dead, and that's a good thing because she seems like a sweet lady. And then we had something with Terry Pritchett's hat. So there's just always this whole bunch of Mandela effects every month in that newsletter. And it's now in its 24th year, so it's been a long running actually archive, and I haven't updated my website. Some people offer to update it for me, but the reason I don't is because the archival aspect of it is so important to me that if we switch formats, and there's no way I want to jeopardize the integrity of the data collection that's happened for like these last 24 years. So
that makes sense. Cynthia, let me ask you a question. And I'm going to ask this around the panel as we go into our updates for the month. When do you remember Thanksgiving being?
Well, that one's very meaningful to me because, and it's a November thing. It was the third Thursday. Well, I always had 5 weeks to get ready for Christmas. No more. That happened. That shifted big time. And when I picked International Aura Awareness Day some 21 years ago, I specifically, this is how you can track when it happened, because back then it was not clobbering. There's no way I would put it on Thanksgiving Day weekend. That didn't make sense. So I put it the week after. It's still, there's a risk people might be on vacation, but I thought we can be separated from the Thanksgiving holiday. But now it's just always right there with Thanksgiving, which is kind of, I've sort of come to terms with that, but it's been shocking to me. So that's a big one for
me too. I ran across it a couple years ago, but I'll get to me in a little while. It's not my turn yet. Moving on. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for that amazing update. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in Cynthia's work, where can they find it?
RealityShifters.com.
And again, this is an archive of all her work for the last 20 plus years. She is a veteran in the Mandela Effect.
Original game. OG.
OG, that's right. She's the OG of the ME. There we go. Too many little, anyway. Cynthia Sue Larson, ladies and gentlemen, realityshifters.com. Sign up for the newsletter. I get it every month. Really puts a smile on my face every time I see it come into my inbox. I love getting it. I got it long before, IMEC was a thing. So that's where you can find Cynthia Sue Larson's work. Christopher Anatra, also known as the Quantum Businessman, or you may know him as the Quantum Businessman. There we go. Sorry, I had to copy your style there, Chris. Number one, how was your month, and when was Thanksgiving for you?
Yeah, so for me, it was always the third Thursday of November my entire life. So getting used to this fourth, Thursday has not been easy for me, and also it conflicts with some things like in the historical record. One of the upcoming slides we're going to talk about is the JFK assassination. So that happened in this timeline on 11/22/1122 of 63. So that would have been on Thanksgiving or maybe the day before. And if this in this particular timeline, or the old timeline, but I remember him being killed around Thanksgiving, but not that exact date. So yeah, so things like those type of things don't make sense. Plus, people that do their Christmas shopping now only have 3.8 weeks to get all their shopping done after Thanksgiving. So there used to be like a whole extra week after that. So yeah, for me, definitely, it's never been this way. So, and to just answer your question about what's going on, so much, timelines merging. I have so many personal Mandela effects going on, and probably you guys that are watching too, you're probably observing these things and you're thinking to yourself, wait, is that possible? Just so many interesting things. I've been observing my first Cheshire cat moon. Moneybag 73 made a video about it about a month ago, and I had never seen that. That's where the moon is starts to smile at you, like the crescent moon. Instead of being sideways, it's more upside down, and that's being observant in the sky for myself. And even my Windows desktop icon shows when it's at nighttime, it shows the moon in that position. And I'm like, I've never seen that before. So yeah, and other things too, keeping busy. Been doing a lot of interviews with people. Going to be posting some interviews. One is with a woman named Penny Bradley, related to the Super Soldier program, the Secret Space program. Another one was with Brad Olson. And some people that know Brad Olson, he does a lot of work with Antarctica. He's been to Antarctica before, and he's been on a lot of shows. He's been on Gaia TV.
I like Brad.
Yeah, really good interview with him. So I'll be posting those interviews in the next week or so. So yes, a lot going on. So much.
And you also had an interview with Captain Randy Kramer. Randy, Captain Randy. Yes.
Yeah, Randy Kramer, and also Tony Rodriguez, who is another one. It's like interesting how like people like Tony Rodriguez, like people are starting to get their memories back from being like having other lifetimes or portions of their life doing other things. And this is happening more and more. And I think we're going to start hearing about that more and more, where we're going to start remembering these things as, again, it's all part of what's happening in our reality and us starting to get our memories back.
So, ladies and gentlemen, looks like Chris is really digging deep into the SSP, the Secret Space Program. For those that don't know, for those that do, and you're interested in the topics, check Chris out at quantumbusinessman.com. I just want to make sure I had that right. quantumbusinessman.com. Can they find your videos there, or that's just on YouTube, sir?
Yeah, I post my videos there, and they're also on the Quantum Businessman channel on YouTube. So, yeah.
So you guys go check Chris out, and he puts some fascinating work out, guys. Pretty consistently, pretty steadily. He's got something coming out, to watch. I enjoy his content when I can. Not gonna lie, Chris, I don't get a lot of chance to watch your content. I have so much other research going on most of the time.
I completely understand. Exactly. That's true for all of us, right? We're all doing so many things. We just don't have to.
But I watched that Tony Rodriguez because you did that with you and Sean, and it was fabulous. I recommend it for people that might want to check it out. If you've never seen Tony Rodriguez, it's a great introduction. And then I got the book. I'm like, well, this is too weird. It's like, got to check that out. Yeah, very interesting.
But definitely very fascinating, Chris. Keep on the great work. Keep getting these interviews in, digging into this stuff. Also, he does a lot of Akashic Record stuff, guys. So if you're interested in that, go check it out also. Moving on down the line to somebody else whose content I used to have time to enjoy, but haven't had for quite a while. My good buddy, my old friend, Mr. Shane Robinson, unbiased and on the fence. How we doing, Shane?
Doing wonderful. Had a great Thanksgiving, and and for me, with the third Thursday thing, that was one of those Mandela effects that like popped up for me before I even knew what the Mandela effect was. And I was working at a flea market at the time, and somebody came to me and were like, isn't Thanksgiving the third Thursday? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I just kind of look at the calendar and see. But he was like, questioning me. And it was like after I found out about the Mandela effect, I was like, oh, that's why that guy was kind of freaking out at the flea market at that time about, and I was like, what's the big deal? Just look at the calendar. But yeah, like, he was having a Mandela effect moment. And I didn't know at the time, but it was only, in retrospect that I was like, oh, wow, that guy was having that moment that, when you realize that, wait, what's going on? Is this not my reality? Other than that, though, I've been doing sessions with people. I do beyond quantum healing sessions and music, art, kind of stretched thin these days. But yeah, just doing a lot, especially coming up on the end of the year and everything.
That is too cool. So just real quick, what is BQH?
Beyond quantum healing. It's like a lot of the work that you've seen with Dolores Cannon, where she takes people and they visit past lives. Of course, with my work, you never know. People can go to the past, the future, just parallel realities and things like that. So there's really, there's no telling. But it's an exploration of people's higher consciousness. It's like a way of going within to get information from within, so.
It's fascinating. It really is. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in
BQH,
thank you, sir. Shane, where can they find you to do this?
UOTF.net. Yeah, just go to my website, UOTF.net, and you can look on the contact page. Yeah.
And roughly, if I may ask, how many do you do in a month?
Oh man, it can vary. Anywhere from 4 to a dozen or so, it just really depends.
Gotcha. Very, very interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, go to UOTF.net, UOTF.net, or you have a YouTube channel too, right, sir?
Yes, that's right. Unbiased and on the fence.
Unbiased and on the fence.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, Shane Robinson, there you go. I'm so glad to hear you three have had such an amazing month, because I have too. I'm going to start with the Thanksgiving question like we all have. the third Thursday of the month for me is what I always knew it to be. When I worked at Dairy Queen, once again, back around 2012, 13, that whole area, somebody had brought up that Thanksgiving was coming up and it was last Thursday of the month. And I went, no, I don't think so. And I go checking the calendar. Calendar says this, but I would have swore. And that's when I started hearing other people also talk about it was the third, not the fourth Thursday. And yeah, it was the third Thursday for me too. I don't have like any shopping stories or, anchor memories per se, but it was the third Thursday of the month. That's what we were taught. It was, not the end of the month. It was just before the end of the month, third Thursday. No problem. That's what I always knew it as. So yeah, that one drives me a little cuckoo too. Those out there in chat, that question did come from the chat, by the way. Wanting to know what we thought about, third or fourth Thursday, what we remembered. So I appreciate the person that threw that out there. We spun that around in our session here, but my month has been absolutely amazing. We've cut back a little bit on the radio stuff with the holiday season, a lot of people traveling, myself and AJ included. So we haven't been able to do as many shows. I've been doing my Thursday night shows. We missed last week. AJ was traveling once again. He's been doing Friday nights, and we will continue this through the end of the year then we will pick back up with our Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm sorry, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I swear I know what I'm talking about. I promise. Shows on the network. You can find us at rippinrabbithole.com. It is in the chat over here. Thank you, IMEC, for dropping that in the YouTube chat. Rippin' Rabbit Hole. That is where we have our radio show every week. We discuss a lot of freedom, a lot of rights, things like that. We do Freedom Talk Radio right now. We were doing paranormal. We had to switch it up due to current activities of our time, and we'll leave it at that. But go check us out, guys. We go live every Thursday night, and it is direct live. It's a great show, amazing show. I enjoy it. I hope you guys do too. Something I can't discuss a whole lot here with IMEC because it is political, but I have a great time over there. I know my fans do. You can find us at rippinrabbithole.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, enough of the chatter session. I believe we've got some slides to jump into. What do you guys think?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I like that. Let's do it. I think you stole that from AJ, didn't you? He uses that every show. I'm kidding. Not a problem. So we are having some internet issues here at IMEC, so do bear with us. Producers having some background issues, so we'll get these on the screen just as quickly as we can while we're waiting on that to come up. Would anybody like to just chime in and you got anything? Anybody?
Oh, we're back up.
Golden Mandy's. Hey, that's a great suggestion, Chris. All right, ladies and gentlemen, can you bring that up just a hair more, Heather? It's a little small typed for me. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to have to get up closer to the screen here. The IMEC 2022 Golden Mandy Award final nominees, ladies and gentlemen. We are down once again to our final round. I'll get this audio right in a second. To our final round of voting. We've got our finalists ready, as we announced last month. For those who may not be as aware of who these folks are, I'm pretty sure you haven't been living under a rock, but in case you have, Evan Maitreya, Moneybag 73, is the first one on the ballot. Evan is one of the leading Mandela Effect researchers on YouTube. I said Mandela, you're welcome. Effect researchers on YouTube. Through his YouTube channel, he has produced nearly 600 Mandela Effect videos and amassed over 10 million views. He is the creator of the incredible Mandela Effect voting video series, which is a mouthful, but I love that series. I followed Moneybags for a long time. Next up on the nominations, and remember, guys, you as a community chose these nominations. We're just presenting them for you. Shane Robinson, our buddy, unbiased and on the fence of IMEC. In February 2017, Shane started a YouTube channel called Unbiased and on the Fence to explore different worldviews and ideas held by others. Not long after starting the channel, Shane realized the Mandela Effect was a very real phenomenon and has been instrumental with us here at IMEC in working on Mandela Effect stuff. Also, as well as Mr. Christopher Anatra. You know him as the quantum businessman. He is also on the ballot. Christopher Anatra is the president and CEO of a computer software technology company specializing in food distribution. He began to notice that discrepancies in customer data, including the names of popular food service items, were changing or disappearing, which is very true. This led to his investigation of the Mandela Effect, consciousness, the Akashic Records, and the holographic universe. He has created the YouTube channel Quantum Businessman. That is the third one again on the ballot for the Golden Mandy. And last but not least on the ballot, it's not me, folks. It's not Cynthia. No. It is the University of Chicago Psychology Department. That's right. The visual Mandela Effect study that we covered just a couple months ago here. Fascinating study. Absolutely fascinating. He's actually proved it not being mismemory. The visual Mandela Effect as evidence for shared and specific false memories across people was the name of the study. Little wordy. It's a study. Abstract from the study is the Mandela Effect is an internet phenomenon describing shared and consistent false memories. I know I don't like that word either, folks. I'm reading what the description is. For specific icons in popular culture. The visual Mandela Effect, VME, is a Mandela Effect specific to visual icons. For instance, the Fruit of the Loom, which we'll touch on here shortly. And the Monopoly Man, for instance, is falsely remembered, quote unquote. I know, I hate that word, guys. I know. As having a monocle, the overwhelming majority of subjects share the exact same, quote, collective false memory, end quote. Now I'll quit cursing using those words, but the psychology department of Chicago is number 4 on the ballot. So guys, go cast your vote. Let's try to be as honest as we can. One vote, one person. Let's not turn this into Arizona. I didn't say that. Would anybody else like to chime in on this before we move on?
I would want to say something about the University of Chicago. So, we covered that on one of our last shows. And I think that was really interesting because when you look at the study, when they took the 100 subjects, they tested their memory before they took the survey to make sure that these were people that had good memories. So, and of course, they use the whole term false collective memory, false blah, blah, blah. Part of it's global narrative speak. But basically, at the end of the study, they say more studies are required to figure this out. So I think this was really something that was a landmark thing. So, coming from an outside source from the University of Chicago, it's one of the votes that people should definitely take a close look at. So
I did want to add to that. Technically speaking, it's false memory because you can't go prove it. So I wouldn't get too triggered by it. I used to get really triggered by it too. But when you're trying to explain somebody about it, you've got what reality shows. And then since it doesn't align with reality, it's therefore false, even though for us, the reality is false, right? So yeah, it's something that it can be triggering, but it shouldn't trigger you because we're just, people are just trying to describe it. And that's, a poor way of describing it, for people who are experiencing it,
The people that do get triggered, they have a valid point, though. If this was in a court of law, then it would be, someone would say, that leading the witness.
Very good point. Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
So it's very thought directive wording.
It is.
So there should be better wording for it. Ideally.
I'm one of those people that gets triggered by it, very triggered by that. Like my blood boils whenever I see or hear false memory in relation to ME. Like I'm not even kidding. That is one thing that just really grinds my nerves. I know it shouldn't. You have a very good point, Shane. It really shouldn't. I should let that go, but it bothers me. It really, mainly because we've had this smacked in our face so many times by the skeptics or the ones that just swear you're crazy, it's false memory, it's nothing more. That might be one of the reasons it bugs me so much, but that does really trigger me for some reason. There's not a lot of stuff that does that.
What would be a better word? Well, Cynthia, what do you
That I cannot say. Go ahead.
Well, to
Cynthia.
be accurate, the accurate word would be mismatched, that it does not match the historical records.
I would take mismatched.
Okay,
take
yeah.
that.
All right, let's coin a new phrase. Thank you, Cynthia, for solving that problem right here. Or
Mismatched memory, not false memory, mismatched memory.
Mismatched memory.
Does not agree with official historical records as they happen to be today.
I really like that.
Yeah,
I do. I really like that. Mismatched memory.
Yeah.
What do you guys think in the chat? Do you think it's better than false memory? I'd like to hear what you guys
And I like it because we're going in a new direction with the
we should
terminology.
claim it.
And this is all about new directions on this episode, right?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right, guys, you heard it here first. We are patenting that. We are patenting that. I'm kidding, but you heard it here first.
We're coining the phrase.
Coining the phrase. There you go. Feel free to use it all you would like.
Mismatched memories.
Mismatched memory, not false memory. Mismatched memory.
Triple M's. Hey, it'll be a triple M by the time we're done with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to what you guys are saying, there's somebody who has a channel on YouTube that talks about Mandela effects, and I was listening to one of his videos a few weeks ago, and he made a confession. And he's like, I have to be honest with you. For me, it's always been Berenstain Bears. It was never Berenstein. So for him, so who's mismatched into what? So keep those things in mind. We're all different. We're all coming from different, our memories are coming from different timelines. So.
And there was somebody in the chat earlier, Lord help me, I can't remember the name now. I apologize for the person if they're still listening. They said they remember Thanksgiving on the fourth Thursday of the month. It's always been like that for them.
Yeah.
So how old are they?
Right. I didn't ask that particular question, but
because this happened in the last 21 years. When I set up International Aura Awareness Day, that was 21 years ago. So it's happened within that time frame. It happened shortly after, like 5 years into it. So about 15 years ago for me.
Emergency message, ladies and gentlemen, emergency message. We may lose the show. There is high winds in the area which this is being broadcast out from. So if power goes off there, the show could be cut suddenly. Just so you guys are aware, if we disappear, it wasn't YouTube probably. It was most likely the weather conditions that have shut us down. We will try to come back as quickly as possible if that be the case, but just so you guys are aware.
And if not, love you guys. Bye.
Right. Together we go, together we grow. Let's go.
We got some good stuff to cover, though. We should move on to the next thing.
Absolutely, because we are on a time crunch, ladies and gentlemen. Producer Heather, as soon as you are able to, there we go. Ghost apples, folks. What? This is amazing. So I seen this covered by Eva a couple years ago. This isn't new to me per se, but definitely a new phenomenon in general. So a real thing, freezing rain falls on apples that hadn't been picked, and they receive a coating of ice. Some of the apple insides turn to mush because of the temperature differential. And then because the apples have a lower freezing point in the water, that allowed the mush and then the skin to fall to the ground, leaving behind nothing but a ice apple. So that's a fantastic scientific explanation of what they think is going on. But folks, do you remember ice apples previous to a couple years ago?
No, I don't.
And again, I think this is Michigan is where they were noticing it, although it could be anywhere in the Northeast. But was this Michigan again, where we had the freshwater jellyfish?
Now that is interesting. And Michigan keeps getting these Mandela effects. There might be something we need to eyeball there.
That's where the portal is. Get there now.
Right. It's the next Sedona.
It's the new Earth entrance.
But this is pretty neat. Would you eat a ghost apple? I wouldn't trust it. But would you?
You mean just the ice of it? It's just pure ice.
Yeah.
No, because I don't know.
What about the mushy drink? You could put your cup under it as it's being created. It's like applesauce. I don't know, drink.
Apple cider to a whole new level, right?
An apple chino or something, right?
Yeah. And you know that,
go ahead.
I say these ghost apples don't last long because it has to be the right weather conditions, the water on it, the quick freeze, the apple mush falls out, and then it's there, and then probably it doesn't last that long.
Right.
It has to be ice crystals and cirrus clouds, right?
Wait, did we say that on air, or was? Yeah, that was.
Yeah, we did. We said it on air. So
yeah,
that's our inside joke now. Any unexplained phenomena is a simple matter.
But your point is valid, Chris. It doesn't last long at all. It is a very short-lived phenomenon.
Yeah.
But we don't see this with like any other. You don't see leaves that are ghost leaves or ghost branches or anything like that.
Actually, you better not speak too soon because our mailbag is going to feature another ghostly sort of.
Up to this point, we've not seen.
Have you guys heard about walking trees? The walking tree phenomena? Have you seen those videos?
I've seen the waving
Lord of the
tree,
Rings, sir.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Lord of the Rings, where people have taken videos of trees actually walking. And I'm trying to figure out what is going on. But yeah, the whole walking trees phenomena is very interesting. What are these walking trees? But maybe in another episode, we'll talk about those.
That'd be good.
They're pretty cool.
Raider Champion said, I wouldn't eat a ghost apple or a road apple for that matter. But definitely fascinating. Like I said, up to this point, we haven't seen that particular phenomenon in any other thing except the apple.
Right.
Which is quite fascinating to me. Of course, we're told the apple was the fruit of the tree. We don't know that for a fact. It just says the fruit in the book. But definitely an interesting of all the different items that one could come up with, that it would be the apple, right?
Overprotected 1111 says the walking trees were on Paranormal Caught on Camera. I think that's the second reference to that channel.
Second I've seen today in the chat. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, guys, looks like Paranormal was the name. Paranormal Caught on Camera is the channel to check out stuff a lot like what we're talking about here. I've never watched it, but one of the people in the chat say it's amazing. So there you go. Twice we've hit their topics.
Very nice. Sounds exciting.
Doesn't it, though? Speaking of exciting, I'm excited to see what our next slide is.
Oh,
yeah.
Cynthia.
I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to Cynthia Sue Larson for this, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yes. Well, this is exciting because, as you can see, what we're looking at here is a conversation that happened on Twitter. And what you're looking at are responses to a survey that I was running. I'm just holding it up, kind of low tech. And what that is, it's a survey question. And the question was, did the Fruit of the Loom logo have a cornucopia? And I posted that to Twitter. And that was earlier this month in November 2022. And the results, if you're wondering, how did people vote? Well, you can see a huge yes response rate of 85.79% was yes. And this is a small sample size of 28 final votes after a week. Final results, no was 7.1%, maybe 7.1%. And this is on Twitter. But the amazing thing, as you can see right here on the screen, I got a response from Fruit of the Loom, and they said, we cannot confirm nor deny.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. Very playful. And I wrote back, excellent choice of words. Love it. Thanks so much for your awareness and appreciation of the Mandela Effect. So whoever's running their Twitter account is doing a great job noticing that the survey popped up. And I think it's great I think for their corporate interest, it's fun that they're having that kind of interaction with people. And, because a lot of people do remember the cornucopia. I think we've talked about this before. Show of hands of you guys that remember the cornucopia with the logo, which
definitely.
Yeah. So that's,
and on the right, there's a tweet from Fruit of the Loom back on, I guess it was April 1st. It says April 2nd, but they said it was like an April Fool's post that they did to show what society tells us to be versus what we actually are. So they And a lot of the comments are really interesting under that, like, oh, you're just gaslighting us and stuff like that. People are real playful about it.
Yeah.
But it's good because it's still bringing awareness to the amazing Mandela Effect phenomenon, right?
Yes, it does. And I ran a similar, because it's possible now to run a survey in different places. I ran the same survey over on my YouTube channel. I'm holding now the results up, it shows you that there's integrity in the survey responses, because got similar results. This time 125 votes, 83% said yes, 8% said no, 9% said maybe, and one comment said, I have a photo of one of the original stock certificates from the 60s. On the certificate, the cornucopia is behind the fruits, as we remember. I did respond to, that's analog lime, and I wrote back in the comment just the other day, could you please send me a picture of that? So I'll keep you guys posted, but I haven't seen a photo of that. That would be wonderful to get evidence showing the cornucopia on a stock certificate for fruit of the loom going back to the 1960s, if we can see such a thing. Now, keep in mind, the person may remember it. It may have even existed that way. Who knows what they're actually going to see when they pull out that paper.
But what another great example of like the fact that I didn't even know what a cornucopia was in that picture, but I know it was in there. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why would my brain make up something I don't even know what it is and put it in a picture like that,
And one of the people that were exactly in the University of Chicago study that we were talking about, they gave people the opportunity to choose between images of the Fruit of the Loom logo with fruit on a platter, or fruit just sitting there, and I think they may have had the cornucopia, and they had people draw what they remembered. People are drawing the cornucopia and remembering that, and they had the platter seems more normal,
Right. Like, wouldn't we all think of a bowl or plate before we would a cornucopia? Right?
But people don't choose that.
And it brings to the point, as you said, Shane, you said, why would my brain put a cornucopia in? Why would every person who remembers the exact same thing put a cornucopia in there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or the turkey leg, like Henry VIII. There's so many like that. Why would we all misremember that? Or Stouffer's is another great one. Like, that's all I knew Stouffer's for was stovetop stuffing.
Right.
It was like later when I saw lasagna, I'm like, oh, the stovetop people does lasagna too, right? That's just how my brain thinks of it. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, they've never done it. Like, no. Yeah. So that's another one to bring up that's good because of Thanksgiving,
And they aren't the first company to interact with our community. There's been a few who have. We know College Humor did that Sinbad skit. I thought that was a little disrespectful of them, but just the same. Then we had a company like Febreze, who on April Fool's Day a couple years ago changed all their marketing to the way we remember.
Oh, I didn't know about that one. Did you?
Didn't know about that. That's cool.
It was about 2 or 3 years ago on April Fool's. All their marketing, their website, everything was branded with the old way that we remember Febreze.
You sure Brian Wilson or what's his name? John Wilson didn't get a hold of it with the stickers.
It's interesting you say that, because when John Wilson from HBO came and visited me the other month, he gave me extra Febreze stickers. Yeah, you buy Febreze, just stick these on the bottle and make yourself feel good. I'm like, okay.
That's funny. But there have been even other companies, I don't remember who all they were right off the top of my head, but some of these, PCH. PCH did not like that everybody remembers Ed McMahon. And as a matter of fact, they had 2 agents follow me on Twitter after I put that out.
Are you still on Twitter?
No, I quit that a long time ago. And unlike most, I refuse to go back. I'm sorry, even though Elon's taking it, stuff we can't get into here, but I'm not going back to Twitter. I won't. It's too much of a cesspool. At least it was at the time. But like I said, PCH, a lot of these companies are very, very aware of what we're speaking about in our community. More so than one would think, as we've seen once again with Fruit of the Loom, which I like the fact they jokingly played along. Cannot confirm nor deny. It almost makes me wonder if their marketing people are like, yeah, I remember that too.
Right?
I can't find the evidence, but I remember it, guys.
There's no way some employees don't. You know what I mean? There's just somebody remembers it.
I will be publishing a report in the next newsletter of Reality Shifters from an ex-employee there. I'm not going to steal the thunder and till that comes out. But there will be an inside report from a person who was working in the art team at Fruit of the Loom. So that'll be, I'm not going to say anything until I go through the editing process and get it published. It'll be in the December issue. Yeah.
Very nice.
But this is a new direction too of the Mandela effect. Companies actually claiming, some participation in the effect in some way, in some manner, even if they're still finding their way to how do they come to terms with it, which can be a little uneasy at times.
Right. Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, that's another reason to make sure you go up and go on and sign up for the Reality Shifters newsletter. That's realityshifters.com, right? Not net.
Right.com.
I keep getting confused on that one. Realityshifters.com. Sign up for that newsletter and you'll get that interview when it is all edited out and she is done with it. Fascinating, though, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, many companies are very aware that the claims we're making, and not all companies are against it. So keep an eye out for more information as it unfolds. Ladies and gentlemen, with that said, let's skip on over to our next slide. How many attacks happened in Pearl Harbor?
Yeah, this one was really interesting because we all remember, and the date's coming up soon, December 7th, the day that will live in infamy. And I'm going to say something about Roosevelt's speech as well, but I did not realize that the Japanese launched, 90 days later, they launched another bombing run over Pearl Harbor with the purpose being to stop the rebuilding efforts that the United States was doing to start to rebuild Pearl Harbor after the first bombing. And of course, to strike more fear into people's hearts. So the second bombing run was not as successful. I think it happened on the night of a full moon because they wanted to use the light of the moon to make sure they hit their targets. But it turned out to be a cloudy day. So a lot of the targets were missed. I think one bomb almost hit a school, but it missed the school. And when I was looking at this too, and I first discovered this, there is all this information about how one of the planes hit one of the volcanoes, and that showed the picture of the wreckage. And I wanted to include that, and now that doesn't exist anymore.
Wait, what was that, the first or the second bombing?
Second one. The second bombing run, one of the planes hit one of the volcanoes. There's a really cool picture of the bomb of the plane, being destroyed at the bottom of a volcano. And I wanted to include that photograph. And when I went to go find it, I couldn't find it anywhere. Before it was everywhere. Now it was gone. So it's almost like the timelines were merging fast with this one. So for me, second bombing run, completely new. And then Roosevelt's speech has also changed. So everyone knows that Roosevelt had the famous Day of Infamy speech. Now it's the date of infamy. So it went from day to date. And I remember him saying that will live in infamy. Now he says which will live in infamy. So if anybody looks up that speech and either hears him say it or whatever. So we've got two things related to Japan, World War II, and Pearl Harbor that for me are, at the very least, they're personal Mandela effects for me. I don't know if anyone else, but you guys can chime in and let me know what you think.
I think it's important to note here that even though it wasn't as successful of a bombing run, it was considered too hot for the American public to know about at the time, and it stayed secret for decades.
How is that possible? I know it's a great official story, but this is new. This is, to answer your question, Chris, this is new for me. I don't remember a second day. And because people live in Hawaii, that's part of America.
Right.
How would they? States. How do you cover something like this?
Right.
Especially if a plane not come back and talk about it.
Right. Especially if a plane ran into the volcano and all this, right?
Right.
Yeah. And if there was, if they're attacking again, that's a great way for the government to get the people behind them even more. Like, listen, they came back and they attacked us again. We really got to get to war. You got to enlist. You got to fight for the country. So to me, for them to keep it a secret.
Too hot.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't make any sense. That's not the way governments work. They make things up to get people motivated to do things.
The whole bleeds leads thing, right?
Right.
Like too hot. That doesn't even fit.
Yeah, the same thing happened when the Nazis bombed the oil tanker Coimbra in New York Harbor. the official story is when the U-boat attacked it, it was the same thing, too hot for the public to know about. They didn't want to know that U-boats were sailing into New York Harbor. So it was kept part of the secret. But the thing is, again, that would have been great as propaganda to use to get more people to enlist, to fight for the country, to, bring patriotism up to higher and higher levels. So yeah, I don't buy the secret stuff.
Yeah, sounds like another excuse like you come across, with these Mandela effects.
And what do you guys remember about day or date and that or which? I remember day that.
Yeah, I'm right with you guys. Day that will live in infamy. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you when SMQ, Chick Mandela Effect and I did a lot of research into World War II, we found the more we dug, the more it seemed to change. The more incidences we seen started coming up. So we quit digging and we stopped seeing things come up. It was really the strangest thing ever. It was to the point where Germany was almost about to win the war. Like, I don't understand it, but history was starting to lean more towards Germany than America at one point. I really think we would have kept digging, things may have changed drastically.
But this ties in with Philip K. Dick, and also the show that Sean Bond and Christopher, Quantum Businessman, did with that series Colony Cavalier guy.
Tony Rodriguez.
Yeah. Just this whole thing of maybe there is this other, I'm not going to say it's a parallel reality, but maybe there's this something going on where there's this power success that happened. I don't know how to even phrase it.
Yeah, and when I post a video that I did with Penny Bradley, she gets into that whole rise of Germany, like what happened in the 1920s with the Treaty of Versailles, how it devalued the German monetary system, because during World War I, to make retributions, the Germans had to give, millions or billions of dollars to the world. So it devalued their currency. That led to the rise of Hitler, and then World War II, and then Antarctica, and then it gets into all this other stuff. So it's very interesting when you start to look at history from the perspective that we're not officially taught. It makes even more sense, than what the official things say. When you start tying in all these other details and things Tony Rodriguez says, and this person says, and that person says, all these things start to come and form a coherent, consistent story that makes a lot of sense.
What are your thoughts, Chris, on what Jerry was suggesting, that he was noticing with a couple of people he was collaborating with, that the further they looked into historical events, the more they kept changing, and it looked like it was almost a timeline tug of war, and Hitler was winning.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Double slit experiment, observer changes the observed, like those types of phenomena. Like, are we having an effect? Like, when we start looking at things ourselves, are we having an effect on this holographic dream state, reality, however you want to describe what's going on? So, Jerry, thanks for stop looking.
You're welcome. It scared us a lot. We all agree, hey, we need to quit this. We're going to give Germany the win. We keep this up.
Yeah, and what was Philip K. Dick right when he talked about he remembered a timeline where the Nazis won World War II? Like, are there actual timelines that are existing like that? Man in the High Castle type concepts? Yeah.
I've heard from at least one person that's written to me over the last 24 years. I didn't publish that report. There are a couple things I haven't published. That was one of them, because he was very specific about what he'd observed in that reality where Germany did win World
If you
War
think
II.
this reality's bad, you ought to see some of the others.
That's a quote from Philip K. Dick. Yep.
Yes, man, one of my favorite quotes by Philip K. Dick, actually.
Yeah. Excellent. So I guess this is a good one to discuss just for a moment here. I'm glad we're doing that people may be wondering, is it damaging somehow for anybody to be investigating this? And if so, why are we doing this show? It just really kind of drives home the point of what are we doing here? So I'm just putting that out there.
It goes to show a very clear retrocausal action in what we're doing in real time.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I want to dig into this, but the Nobel Prize for Physics was granted by these three physicists that have shown that the universe doesn't exist as we know it. It's not a physical universe, and that
Right.
Einstein was actually wrong on a lot of things. If a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? And according to Einstein, it would make a sound. But according to these three physicists that won the prize this year, it wouldn't unless someone was there to observe it. So all this information is starting to come at us about like really what is this reality that we're in right now. And of course, the Mandela effect is central to it because it helps explain, like, could this be true? Quantum entanglement, how is that a part of it? And et cetera, et cetera. So we're all getting to like starting to come to more of an understanding about what's going on around us.
And that experiment that I love to recommend that people check out is the collaboration between University of Edinburgh, Scotland, and Vienna, Austria, where they had the double slit experiment with 6 entangled particles, photons, and they were using particle detectors in the device apparatus for the experiment at the same place, the same time, observing 2 different results. And it was a Wigner's friend experiment. So they were playing with the entangled quantum particles to see what kind of results they'd get. Wigner's friend is where you've got someone observing the observer. And this starts getting involved in timeline wars and what's going on with these historical events. And can you go back and observe things and change the outcome? And I think our governments know that you can. And so this is, obviously when we're here together, the Mandela Effect Conference, we are recommending that people, I would recommend keep asking how good can it get? And together we go, together we grow. Those kind of intentions can keep everything going toward what we call that golden timeline.
I fully
Absolutely.
agree. You see, the reason me and Shane thought that so funny when you mentioned the tree falling in the woods, I keep referencing the 6-hour conversation him and I had about a tree. That's what we were discussing. Does a tree make a sound if it falls in the woods? We literally had a 6-hour discussion on this topic live on the air over Unirock's channel years ago.
Yeah, 2017 or so. Yeah.
Wow, 6 hours.
Okay,
Yeah.
you guys got to put a link in our video here so people can check that out if they ever can't
my
fall asleep at night.
My God, I'm gonna see if I can find that. That's
would
it's
be
been a couple
interesting.
few years.
Yeah.
Did you come to a conclusion?
Yeah, we concluded that nobody has the answer.
Well, that
It was a
ties
really
in
great
with
discussion, though. So
Yeah,
when you brought that up, me and Shane were like,
Right. You're like, this could be a long discussion, buddy. How much time you got?
well, that's like subjective reality wins, and that's what I co-authored a paper about with George Weissman, and then Carla Rovelli wrote a book about time about that. So this is the direction that the whole conversation in science is moving towards, subjectivity. It's it's up our alley. It's what we're talking about, the Mandela effect. We've been there. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So you guys came to that same conclusion. That's great.
absolutely, yeah, because like I said, it was a very heated discussion at times.
It's like there's not even a tree or a forest. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But fascinating, though, just the same. And it does beg the question, Cynthia, if we start looking into older things, would we, and as a community, even individually, if we started looking into, I don't want to use World War II, we clearly know that's not a good idea, but some other aspect, could we see it continue to change, continue to evolve and grow? Or, of course, there's not an answer to this, but it's a fascinating idea,
Oh yes, I've been noticing with reality shifts, and that's one of the tips on how to see reality shifts or Mandela effects. Just keep looking, look more often. Yeah, the more you look, the more you find them, and that's what I've been recommending people do since that book Reality Shifts came out in the 1990s. So definitely one of my top tips.
And I love your point about the double slit experiment, Chris. How consciousness affects reality. And in a retrocausal fashion, as that experiment shows, it can actually be done in real time, as SMQ Chick and I actually showed.
Yeah. And I believe that we're all literally in our own bubbles of reality. We're all dreaming each other, and the audience is dreaming us, and we're interacting, and we're co-creating this experience together. Let's make it a good one.
Yes.
I fully agree. Would you guys like to move on to the next slide? I'm going to take that as a yes. Next slide.
Well, not really, but we gotta get over it.
We can spend another 6 hours discussing that if we wanted to.
Right, clearly.
Atlanta Race Massacre of 1906. So I remember an Atlanta race riot, but one I'm thinking of was like 50s, maybe 60s, right in there, like in the 1900s, like late 1900s, just outside of my lifetime, not in 1906. So between September 24th and September 26th, 1906, white mobs killed dozens of black Atlantans, wounded scores of others, and inflicted considerable property damage, instigated by unsubstantiated newspaper reports. But I personally don't remember this. This is a new timeline insertion, if you will, for me. What about you guys, team?
It's new to me too.
Definitely new to me. Yeah, and we just had the Tulsa Race Massacre that we talked about not too long ago because we reached the 100-year anniversary, and it never even came up. That wasn't that long ago. Not Atlanta, So it's like and here we have another place I live too. So it's kind of weird that we have the St. Louis weird thing happen with the sprayers, I guess, back in the or whatever, and then like Atlanta in 1906, and now. The Tulsa Race Massacre that we also covered.
Where was this in 06? 2006, the 100-year anniversary.
Oh,
What was the news on this? I don't remember hearing about it.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we did cover it in another show.
Right, on the other one, when we hit the 100-year anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre, but he's saying like in 06, we don't remember any 100-year
There was no
anniversary
news
of this.
stories. There was no, hey, this is the anniversary of this.
Okay, now I see what you're saying. Right.
Yeah, and the thing is, I lived in Atlanta in 06. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I saw this headline. It was either September 24th or somewhere around there, like remembering the Atlanta race riot of 1906. Right. So that's when this first came up into my reality, and I was like, what? And then when you start looking into this a little bit more, it says dozens of black Atlanteans were killed. Atlanteans.
Wrong continent, Chris.
Yeah, right. But actually it was like more into the hundreds. So even what they said in this newspaper thing, like downplayed, like, so when people have investigated it, a lot more people were killed than what the newspapers were saying. So this was a big thing in Atlanta. So, and it never came up for me in Black History Month. I'll put it to you that way. I'm still getting over, Eli Whitney, the inventor of the cotton gin. I always remember him in Black History Month because he was black.
Yes. 100%. Yes.
He's an old white guy.
Yeah. I've seen that now.
Yeah.
That has totally changed.
Yeah. New Haven, where the town, one of the cities that I live close to here, New Haven has Whitney Avenue, named after Eli Whitney. He's like a big deal in the New Haven area. But for me to find out that he wasn't black, that was shocking to me. So there's so many of these, like, you could go, there's like probably tens of thousands of these Mandela effects when you really start looking into it and cataloging them. There's just so many things. So,
all right, which one of you guys was researching Eli Whitney? Come on, Chad. I know one of you was. But it's fascinating that the whole like history of this man has changed. It had to, consider he's a different, for lack of a better term, race. I don't like using that word in relation to color of skin, but different just the same. He would have been treated differently. His life would have been differently, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and it was like a big accomplishment because he was a black person, slavery at that time. He was an inventor.
I know. It used to be like this very inspirational story. I remember that too. Like,
so that's why he was always in Black history.
Yeah, I remember that. It's kind of weird.
Are we ready for our next one?
Let's do it. Sorry, I was locked into the chat there for a minute. The Beatles, ladies and gentlemen, have released a new album. You heard that correct. You heard it here first. The Beatles have released a new album. What?
Yeah, it's just everyday chemistry.
Everyday chemistry. Nothing strange here. Nothing to see at all. Who found this?
Well, it just came up. I think I don't remember. I don't know if I brought it up or what, but it's one that I've been aware of recently. And I'm not a Beatles expert, but I thought that I knew what their albums were, and this was not one that I'd heard of ever.
Yeah, we'll ask the chat. Have you guys heard of the album Everyday Chemistry?
I guess there's some speculation, like who did this and what's going on. Is this,
because
real?
As I brought up in pre-show, I remember the story of the dimensional traveler who supposedly allegedly brought back a tape
Right.
of Beatles music that hadn't been produced here in this reality.
But that didn't have a name. It wasn't called like Everyday Chemistry or something, right?
Right.
And it was also some speculation, like, are these even Beatles songs, right? Whereas in this case, I don't think there's any doubt that these are Beatles songs. At least no one's saying that they have doubts.
Little doubt these songs are indeed performed by the Beatles themselves after listening to the album. A previously unreleased group of Beatles songs have been making the rounds through the light web lately. Nobody remembers the album being released or any of the songs recorded, but it is out there somehow. And maybe always has been. So I've followed the Beatles quite a while. I'm not like a super fan or anything, but it's the Beatles. Who doesn't know about the Beatles, right?
And if our theory is correct, that when you look into things, it's like new directions in the Mandela Effect, the theme of this month's show. Maybe just by watching that movie that came out about the Beatles. Remember that? Where people forgot all their
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
So maybe all that
Love that
attention. So we put their collective attention on this topic, and boom, we've got a new album.
That is really amazing, and I'm interested to hear it and see if anything sounds familiar, because we discussed this when Sherry in the chat Overprotected sent us a song that was a Michael Jackson song. It took you, you were listening to it once, Cynthia, before it started to sound familiar, but for me it was like I heard it one night and then the next day I re-listened to it and it was so familiar. It felt like I'd known it forever, and I was like, wow, how does that happen? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like I took the download after, and it was like you got the download right mid listening to it the first time, right? It sounded fresh, and then by the end of it, it's like, wait, I think I already know this, right?
Yeah, right.
But, yeah, it's a strange thing, but here we have a whole album. I'm interested to go check it out and see if,
JD Peterson says maybe it's a remix of Found Tapes.
Well, apparently the songs are familiar and they can be traced back to each of the Beatles, because apparently that's how we know for sure, like, yeah, this is their stuff because they've done these songs, but never that anybody really remembers in an album together, like supposedly exists. So it is really weird. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but why the name Everyday Chemistry? Does that, if it came forth from all of us collectively thinking about yesterday, and then every day, it's almost like a question and answer, like yesterday, and then the answer is Everyday Chemistry. So if you're,
oh wow, I love that.
That's what I'm screaming. Yeah, wow, exactly. Jacqueline Klein, weird. Everyday Chemistry doesn't even sound like a Beatles album title, and you're right.
But if you take into account, what if we are calling it into being? We're saying, Beatles, we don't want to forget your music.
Right.
And we're
Like
thinking
you
about
said,
yesterday.
putting that energy on it with that movie coming out, it put that energy on the Beatles and the Beatles albums and all that. Yeah. So retrocausally, the consciousness could theoretically change it.
Right.
Well, I think we have definitely stepped upon a way to send the Mandela Effect in new directions just by our own use of consciousness and research.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Everyday Chemistry Overprotected says every day is a holy day. And
yes.
I love that. So bringing the focus to the now, right? And it kind of reminds me of that, tomorrow is always a day away, right? From that Annie song. Instead of, it's only a day away, it's changed to when you're sort of pushing it out there, you'll never get there, right? If it's always looking ahead instead of being in the now moment. So,
and I like that word chemistry. If you think about the way things come together, there's synergy. That would be even better. Everyday synergy. Mm-hmm. Maybe the title will change at some point.
It was the 60s. What do they know, right?
Right.
But we have yet another timeline insertion, to borrow Christopher Anatra's term, of a new Beatles album in reality that nobody remembers. Speaking of the Beatles, do you guys remember the Abbey Road crossing pics?
Pics.
That's right.
One
I
picture.
said
I remember one.
Yeah. Can you
I
guys guess
remember
which
one
one is
also.
the album cover? Which one they went with?
I'm going to say top right.
Maybe we can blow this
that's
up a
pretty
bit,
close.
make it bigger.
Thank
There
you.
we go. Yeah, because it's kind of tiny there. So going back and forth different directions, and they're in different places on the street.
Now, what's interesting is this kind of goes against the whole idea that they were like trying to put some hidden message in it, in the order that they were walking and the clothing and things like that, because they're all mixed up. You know, it's like they're going each way, and I don't know. It didn't look like they were trying to specifically do something in a certain prescribed way, like you hear about when you're like, if you look at this photo, it's telling a story, and you know what I mean.
Right.
Now we see that they just walked back and forth a few times and picked the best one. That's interesting, you know?
I just want to add too that this one kind of freaks me out a little bit because actually none of those pictures are the way that I remember it. So I remember them walking from right to left. So that's the first thing. I always remember John Lennon, you know, wearing the white, but him always being in the back. I don't remember him ever being in the front. I remember Paul McCartney not wearing shoes, and on one of them he wears shoes, but he's going in the wrong. It's just like, when I first, this is something that I had spotted too, because I saw a cover of Abbey Road, and they used the walking direction that I wasn't familiar with. So they were going from left to right, and I'm like, oh, there's a Mandela effect right there. And then to find that they could interchangeably use it on different album, like depending on what album version you got, this is a really weird one. So yeah, so none of these pictures are the same one that I remember. I just wanted to throw that out there. They're all different, and it's just strange. One, John Lennon's, you know, looking away. He's looking towards in the bottom right one. He's looking towards that white beetle. I definitely don't remember that one. And just going in that direction just doesn't make any sense to me either. So I don't know what people like remember that are, you know, in the chat or watching this right now, but please share your comments, let alone if there were 6 versions that were used interchangeably. It's really bizarre.
In this reality, right? We got a whole nother reality of pictures where, you know, you're remembering a different reality, Chris. It's like, so the answer to that one is it's the bottom.
The bottom middle.
Middle, yeah.
Wow. They all start looking wrong. I mean,
right. So the bottom middle one is the one that was actually used on the album cover.
Right.
Huh.
I guessed it was the top right myself.
That's pretty close. That's probably the closest one to the actual one. So good job on that one.
I'm going to be honest with you, it was the color differential.
Right. But it's so funny because I remember his jacket waving like the bottom left one in the image that you see, where it's not like that in the actual one that they used. But I kind of remembered it flaring out more, you know?
Yeah, and I'll just add one more too. There's another famous Mandela effect about John Lennon, the Imagine song, him playing a piano. He was always wearing, in my old timeline, he was always wearing a white suit. Always wearing a white suit. So at least in these pictures, we know he owned a white suit, first of all.
Right.
But in the video, if anyone looks up the video of him playing the piano, he's now wearing a dark suit that has like a star pattern on it. Has like all these stars all over it. And I'm like, I don't remember that at all. So we see partly that part of the Mandela effect timeline merges, however you want to say it. He did own a white suit, and it is very possible that a lot of us have a good solid memory of the Imagine song and singing in that song and singing that song in that suit. So
Hodge wasn't everything white in that video, like even the grand piano and everything.
Yeah,
right?
everything was white, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, and now is he the only black colored thing in the image?
Exactly. Yeah,
that's strange.
Yeah,
that's very strange.
Yeah, I don't know if Heather could find a picture of the John Lennon video playing the piano for Imagine, but If you could, Heather, that would be cool, just to bring that up to show that the suit that he's wearing is different.
Yeah, you can't be the only one that remembers that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's like Tom Cruise never wearing sunglasses in the famous Risky Business, scene.
Yeah.
With that good old rock and roll. Yeah.
Well, the four of us who remembers John Lennon wearing white in that video, I do. So.
Yeah, I think I do. I don't. It's not 100%.
You're not sure?
For me.
Yeah, I'm not 100 either. So yeah, I'm not gonna.
I totally remember white because it would have looked weird. I mean, it was just this whole. It felt like ethereal, like you're in this other world because it's all white. He's white. Everything's white.
Yeah. When Chris sent the image, I was like, "Wait a minute, that looks odd." I think I remember the white. Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it just felt wrong. Yeah.
Can we pull that picture? Oh, no, she's looking for another picture. But based on the other picture we had up with the 6, Patricia Gallagher says, it's the positioning of the feet being synced that I remember, as in the bottom middle.
Yeah.
So that is correct. That was the right one.
Yeah.
There she goes. Wow, she is good. She can look for that and keep up with us. She is really good, ladies and gentlemen. We got the best producer ever. Hands down, best ever. But were you guys huge Beatles fans? I wasn't. I mean, I liked the Beatles. I was a big fan of them, but I wasn't like a super fan, like I said before.
Right. Yeah, I liked them. I wasn't like a super fan. But they're good. They're classic.
So perhaps if we keep looking, we'll find that the pictures actually change. There we are. There is John Lennon sitting in his white piano in a black suit.
And you see the effect it has. It looks like he and the whole suit are this whole black figure. It almost gives it a dark vibe, like almost like you expect he's melancholy or something. But that's not what I remember. I remember him being part of the white, being like this angelic.
Right.
I can tell you it looks off to me.
Yeah, it does.
I can't say 100% it was a white suit. I'll go with you guys on that, but the black definitely looks off.
Yeah.
Overprotected 1111 says, "We love Heather," the woman behind the curtain. I know she's got to be 9 shades of red right now. I do apologize. But she does an amazing job. Can we move on to the next slide, though?
Yeah.
Rectangular pupils. So, Chris, you said you found this one, correct?
Man, I'm freaked out.
How did you come upon this? This is freaky as can be.
I know, because like when I was a kid, we had 2 horses, and I would look into their eyes, and their pupils were not rectangles.
Were they round for you?
They were round.
Okay, that's what I remember. I used to go horseback riding like on vacation, and they were definitely round. That's wild. Look at that.
I know. Come on. Yeah. So in this timeline, horses, sheep, goats, octopuses, and toads have rectangular shaped pupils, and they say that the reason is that it allows them to survey their surroundings more accurately, because they're considered prey animals, so that other animals are hunting them. Not prey like I'm going to pray, but prey as being,
predator and prey. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, those 2 words have the same frequency. That's another situation. But yeah, to see goats, to see sheep, to see horses with these rectangular slits is like really, and people can comment in. Am I the only one? Is it
I think one of the very first videos I watched from Eva from Once Upon a Timeline's YouTube channel featured these horse, and I went back to look for that video to put it on here today, because I thought, it'd be great to bring in Eva's video, and I can't find it, so I don't know. Or Eva, I'm sorry, that's my granddaughter's Eva. So. Eva, she so yeah, if she has that, maybe she can post it down below or whatever, because I remember her covering it, and the timeline I'm from anyway.
The goat at the bottom just looks so wrong to me. It looks like almost Photoshop when it comes to those eyes. They don't look right. I remember rounded eyes in all these animals, especially the octopus.
This is one where it changed a long time ago for me, because a long time ago, decades and decades, they were round, but then for the last 20 or maybe 30 years, they've not horses though, but goats have had this kind of a rectangular.
And the chat seems to be agreeing with you on this. This may be my ignorance on this one. I don't know. Maybe a Mandela effect for me. But the chat is saying, I've seen the eyes on my brother's goat. Another one said, goats do, not horses.
There we go. Yeah, that's where it's like, okay, something's wrong with like sheep and horses. Like, what?
Yeah, see, horses are the only thing I'm sure of because, I wasn't around animals that much. And I know we went horseback riding and it looked like they were looking you right in your eye, but that doesn't have that feel about it,
Right.
And I agree, Patricia Gallagher. Goats have always had horizontal slits that looked like sideways cat's eyes. This is wrong.
Very strange.
And okay, so these are the animals we found so far, correct? Horses, sheep, goats, octopuses, and toads, right?
Yeah.
This is a definitive list, correct?
Yep.
So if we find more creatures outside of this list,
pay attention. Yeah.
Pay attention. We'll know that it's a consistent changing, not just these so far.
Oh, and did we find another difference between toads and frogs here?
We did. Well, again, I don't know if that's a difference or my ignorance once again, because I just didn't know that frogs were the slimy ones and toads weren't. That may be me.
well, I'm saying the toads might be the horizontal slitted eyes, and the
right.
The frogs might have something.
Another distinguishing characteristic.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking online right now, and it looks like antelope. Oh, something just showed.
Really?
Antelope also have the rectangular eyes.
Okay.
And deer? What? Yeah, deer.
We got to stop looking, or everything's
changing reality. Yeah. So anyone be invited to like Google antelope eye pupils or deer eye pupils and see what comes up in the images. But I'm getting, deers have rectangular. According to the images I'm seeing here,
wow,
the deer have rectangular pupils. So I'm going to stop looking now.
Got to have humans with rectangles to keep it up, Chris.
It's almost like
the unicorns.
It's like when we do that looking thing, then we've got admin access to the simulation.
Yeah.
It almost seems to be the case, Cynthia. All jokes aside, that really does seem to start being the case.
Mm-hmm.
We may have just found a new aspect of the Mandela effect, a new direction of the Mandela effect. And ladies and gentlemen, a lot of this was not scripted. Well, pretty much none of this was. Stuff we're coming up here now.
At some level.
Yeah, the at higher levels.
Right. The slides were scripted. That's about it. But seriously, what we've come up with today is literally organic. We just came with this idea today. So what you're seeing is real time thoughts occurring. So just so you guys are aware. And I don't normally look at a lot of this stuff beforehand. I know I'm supposed to. So I get a lot of this. I've told you guys before, I'm seeing this at the same time you are for the first time, most of this stuff, especially the videos.
Yeah.
But again, slit eyes in horses, sheep, goats, octopus, toads, antelope, and what else was it, Chris?
Deer.
Deer.
Basically, they say anything classified as a prey animal.
Anything classified as a prey animal. Nature.
That's a pretty broad sweeping statement, though.
Right. Nature has really been busy at work lately.
That would include rodents. They are prey animals. Rats, mice, rabbits. But
what if it goes all the way down to insects?
They're also saying it's an evolutionary advantage, right? Because it helps them evade the predator because they can see more of the horizon about what's going on around them. So for the animals, just like we have body upgrades on our avatar body with the heart being in the center of the chest and the kidneys being up by the lungs and all that, those are advantageous. So it makes sense too that for moving higher frequency bandwidths, the animals would be getting upgrades too.
Mm-hmm. It's like they can watch their own back now,
Yeah.
Then was man always the number one predator? Because we don't have that.
Yet.
That's fair. I mean, we were for years prey to the bigger animals, the bears, things like that, things they could quickly and easily eat us without question. We're just as much prey as any other creature in the mammalian kingdom, but we don't have that.
Yeah, actually, I think our eyes are kind of special, and I would probably, the way the retina flips the image, um, like I actually think that that has to do with kind of a philosophy about how we see the world, like the inverted, well, I'll call it the inverted matrix view. And I think that something could happen with our eyes. And I think that something related to that could allow us to see the world in a more truthful manner. And I think even rainbows give us a clue about that. And I think that's going to be like in one of the upcoming slides. I don't know if it's the next one, but one of the next
Yeah,
upcoming
we got another one coming up.
those rainbows, which are really cool.
But the heart-shaped eyes that you brought up earlier, Chris, in some of your videos and also in our shows.
Oh yeah,
We've got these sculptures, statues, and the pupils are now heart-shaped in humans.
That's a good point, because there is a condition where humans can have keyhole-shaped pupils.
I've seen that.
Yeah. So some people's pupils look like a keyhole shape. I forget what it's called. It starts with a C, but there is something related to that. I'm not sure what that means, but
Almost going in the direction of a cat eye, like a slit this way, a vertical.
Right. But it's more of a key lock at the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's really, really strange. Again, I have seen those. They're not normal. They're not something you're going to find a lot, but it has happened.
Yeah, it's called coloboma, Coloboma. It's where the pupil has a keyhole shape. And I don't know if our wonderful producer Heather could look up like Coloboma.
Coloboma. I'm going to drop it in our private here so she can have a reference.
Yeah, to show an example of people that have that keyhole shape. And I've never seen anyone that has that, so I think it's relatively rare.
Chris, can you do a search for me real quick?
Sure.
Fish with rectangular eyes. A major prey animal.
Let me see. Pupils. Well, what comes up is the octopus. Oh yeah, here's the keyhole shape.
Oh,
so there's the keyhole eyes. That's not as pronounced as some that I've seen, but there it is.
That looks alien. I mean,
it does, doesn't it? Perhaps they're the hybrids.
That's what I'm thinking. It's like, alrighty then.
Great minds. There we go.
Well, it looks like it's actually on the lens because there's no reflection or anything on this.
So do you think it's photoshopped? You're saying
it's not photoshopped. It's
not
it's actual condition.
Does it cause any sort of loss of
effect.
sight or anything?
Right.
You would think it would cause a gain of sight, more availability of light to come into the eye.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out if that's a hole, like an actual pupil, or like a spot on the lens.
That is weird.
And it just has to do with how light enters the eye. It's really what it's all about. By the way, Jerry, to answer your question about fish, no, fish seem to have round pupils still, but they are a prey animal, but maybe because they're in the water, maybe that has a different effect than being on the land. So, but it couldn't
Right.
Fair.
They can be attacked from any direction in the water,
Right. That's fair.
And they have the fisheye lens, the fisheye lens because it's so,
All-encompassing.
yeah.
Definitely something we got to keep in mind for sure. I'm going to keep an eye on this. You guys in the chat, I would suggest keeping an eye on that. Also,
keeping an eye on it.
Cynthia, check the chat. Yeah, right. There
We'll
we
keep
go.
our
I didn't
fish
even
eyes on
catch
it.
my own pun there. Good job. Cynthia, check the chat. I can't say that on the air, but there's something interesting over there.
Okay.
About the models. With that said, let's pop up our next slide and topic of discussion.
All right. Yeah. Next slide.
Round and round and round we go. Where we stop, not even the sheep know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I do not mean the people sheep. I mean sheep. a flock of sheep in northern China was being. You guys have heard of this, I know, all week long. This is the second or third time I personally covered it on a show, so I know some of you have heard this before. A flock of sheep in northern China has been videotaped walking clockwise, in a huge circle continuously for 12 straight days, and nobody knows why. And it isn't all the sheep. Oh no. These are reported 34 pens of sheep on a farm. The only one are the ones in pen 13. What a number. Fascinating number. A number we find in a lot of paranormal research. Number 13. My favorite number because it's my birthday. Moved in this manner according to the Metro UK. Moved in circles. Round and round and round they go. Some sheep can be seen standing still but maintaining the circular shape. So we've heard about this in a variety of different shows for the last week. I know I've heard it plastered any and everywhere I have looked. What do you guys think about it? It was even on the Patriot News, folks. There's 2 Patriot News channels that I watched. They even covered this. All right, this has got attention every circle, all pun intended. Go ahead, guys. What do you think of this?
Who wants to go first? I mean, I can say these sheep are giving off a lot of fame energy. So they were bound to be famous. So where this was happening was in an area of China called Inner Mongolia. And it started on November 17th. And, it happened for at least 12 days. I think some reports said it went on for as long as 14 days. By the way, number 13, when I think of 13, I think of divine feminine. That's like a number that's, jumps out at me for that, not what the global narrative tries to make it out to be. At first, scientists were trying to figure out what's going on with these sheep. It must be a disease. So they thought it was listeriosis, which is a circling disease that sheep have, or actually dogs can get it, and any kind of animal can get it. But it's not where they form a circle like that. It's more like they spin in a circle, like they keep going off to one side. But they had to rule that out.
Like the humans.
Yeah. Spinning around real fast or something like that. Yeah. But they ruled that out because usually 24 to 48 hours, the animal would be dead. So they knew it wasn't that brain disease. And they were coming up with other types of theories about what it could be. The last theory that they came out with that they said is the most likely is that the sheep were bored. They didn't like being penned up all day. So one started walking in a circle and they all started following it. And boredom is the official answer from the global narrative. But I think there's more to it than that. And, some of the things that people have been talking about could be related to the Earth's changing magnetic field, the pole shift, all the energy coming from the sun. So there's all these different types of things. I did a show. If anyone goes to my channel about the sheep circling, I just posted it a few days ago with my friend Sean Bond and someone else named Indigo Angel. And we talked about the concept of a magic portal and how, like, when you circle around something, it can actually open a portal. And there's information I was getting from the Akashic records about what was going on. But basically, it has to do with bringing in awakening energy into that part of China, which China seems to be exhibiting more lately. And I'll just add one more thing before I keep talking about this too long. But basically, the town that they were circling in is called Baotao. And Baotao is very interesting because the Great Wall of China runs through that town, the Great Wall of China. So the thought is we didn't know what side, if the pen was on the Mongolian side or on the China side, but it would make sense that it was on the China side. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a very, very, very interesting story with these.
And I go back to the idea that we brought up earlier. I think we brought it up on the air about the vortices.
Yes. And we had Rory Duff on our show back in June of this year talking about the geobiology and the way that these energy grid lines have intersection points where there may be an energy node or there may be a vortex. The United States of America, North American continent has a lot of vortices, whereas in Europe they have a lot of nodes primarily. But where these intersections occur, it's a very strong energetic effect that can be felt. And plants and animals both respond to it.
Back to what Chris was saying, I just had a thought. The narrative, and I say that in full-heartedness, the narrative or the paradigm is that one sheep started walking in a circle and the rest followed him. So if the sheep in the other pens seen this, wouldn't they just naturally start doing the same thing because they're following what they're seeing? Why is it only to one pen? I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me why just pen 13 is having this issue based on their own acknowledgments.
Well, this would be, if it was the energy node or vortex, then that would be the location of that point.
Right. And that makes more sense.
Yeah. So that could be it. And there's a bunch of these things happening recently, and these energy points are getting activated. The energy is stronger. There's more energy running through. That's what Rory Duff had been talking about. There's also an expansion happening gradually of the energy lines. So we might start seeing this a lot more, and this phenomenon might expand out, from even what we've seen so far. And I think, Shane, you were mentioning something about footage of or maybe we've got a video.
I think we have some videos we can roll on this.
Okay.
Roll that clip. Which one, Shane?
I don't think. Well, we can start with the Disney one, I guess.
Disney.
Sound off.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's off. The sound's off. So it's just interesting because I think this is from Frozen, and you can see that here we have reindeer running in a big circle from a few years ago. Look at this. Looks just like what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So that's kind of interesting that they have this sort of circular stampede. And then the other one is...
It reminds me of our logo.
And for that
reindeer... Right, it does. It reminds me of our logo a little bit.
It does. And I saw a show about, last year, a Christmas winter show, showing reindeer at the North Pole doing this, and it's a protective thing. So if they're being... that was the explanation. The person narrating said, so if the wolves have been spotted, the reindeer do this, and okay. So that's their explanation.
So they appear to be a larger... entity by moving together, kind of like a flock of birds.
Yeah, they can't really attack and take something down because it doesn't. Yeah, right. Supposedly.
Yeah, there was also the concept of how, at Mecca, that's that big cube, and all the people walk around it in a counterclockwise shape. So those type of concepts as well. There was this movie with John Cusack that came out in 2016 called Cell. And that movie ended with all these hundreds and hundreds of people walking around a cell tower in a certain direction. And they were actually, the concept was that they were they were walking around the cell tower, but they weren't really present. They were dreaming of them being in a better reality. But in one reality, they were just walking around a cell tower. So you see this concept and videos of ants going around in circles and swimming around people in circles, and a lot of circular, I call it portal stuff happening. Yeah, vortexes, portals, however you want to look at it. And
do we have another video? I think we have another video we can play.
In the meantime, overprotected Shane's. Shane watched Frozen? I'm impressed.
No, I didn't.
Decades, we have seen circles in different parts of the world.
He said, no, I didn't.
12 seconds of it.
Truthfully, I tried to watch that video. I fell asleep and let it go.
Oh, funny.
I let it go. So,
we have a crop circle we're looking at.
An amazing one of that. Go ahead, Heather, roll that clip.
For decades, we have seen circles in different parts of the world with no apparent explanation. Crops that dawn from one day to the next with circular images that for everyone have no explanation. This painting dates back to 1678, more than 300 years ago, and shows the first images of the alleged circles appearing in food fields. So the circles are not new, only nowadays the circles are being shown by animals all over the world. But how can it be possible that animals walk in circles for more than 3 weeks without feeding, drinking water, or resting? Undoubtedly, we are facing an unexplainable phenomenon for science. In a humble village in China, a sheep breeder begins to see a strange behavior in his animals. That is why he begins to record and evidence what is happening on his property. Currently, these sheep have been walking in circles for more than 4 weeks without stopping for a single moment. This is something that has many people worried. Animals all over the world doing the exact same thing, turning in circles for days and even weeks, with no apparent cause or logic. Drastic changes in behavior and shocking images that could leave many of us worried. Did you know that one of the mysterious facts of this situation is that while the animals walk in circles, there are other animals which are in the center without eating, drinking water or moving for days, and absolutely nothing happens to them? Many say it could be signs or warnings of some kind. Others say it could even be a ritual of some cult or sect. What is going on? What is the mystery behind all these curious cases? What would you think if I told you that everything you have seen in the videos could be false and that all the information that comes out in social networks could be playing with your mind? That's why I want to talk to you about the truth revealed about animals walking in a circle. But first, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you like interesting topics and entertainment news. Turn on the notifications bell so that when we release a video you'll be among the first to see our content. First, we will talk about how all this information that later went viral in all social networks around the world started. It all started with a video uploaded by a farmer from a rural town in China. This person began to notice a super strange behavior in his animals, especially a strange and senseless behavior with his sheep. The owner of
So I think that gives us a good idea. There's no need to watch the whole 8 minutes. I'm pretty sure he gets repetitive there after a while.
Yeah.
But he brings up some good points. I don't know about the cult of sheep. I'm not sure they have enough organization to be a cult yet.
I don't think so.
But you think about other like technological, I'll call this like a possible magic circle. I mean, it's all technology, but even the cyclotrons, like the Large Hadron Colliders around the world, you know, are they creating the same type of effect with that type of technology that the animals are creating? And the more they go around and around and around, the more energy, the more energy, the more energy, the more energy. So yeah, those are other clues that we could look at to figure out what's going on here.
It brings up another good point, though, and that's the fact they're not eating or drinking. They're not intaking sustenance, yet they're walking in circles, literally using energy and walking in circles for weeks on end.
I did hear that some of them would take food and water breaks, and then they just go right back to circling. So
the energy is sustaining them somehow to be able to continue doing that. I've heard about birds that cross from Europe to South Africa, and it might take 11 days to make that flight, and without a break, without stopping, without food or water. So some animals are built to do that, but it seems unusual to see this behavior for the first time in sheep. So something's different, something's changing.
It would be interesting to go out there and walk with them and see if you feel anything, right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That is a fascinating idea, Shane. And the reason I find that fascinating is I did a UFO research thing one time where I had this field that was grown up higher in the middle of the field, a perfect circle grown up higher than the rest of the field. So upon investigation, I found that within this circle, there was a definitive temperature differential. It was warmer inside the circle by a good 3, 4, maybe even 5 degrees differential. It was you could tell inside and outside the circle, there was a heat differential. So really, really fascinating when it comes to that idea in this here. If you were inside this circle, would there be an extra heat differential? Would it be extra energy given? What would happen inside the circle? That's very, very good question, sir.
Very interesting to see what it would look like under thermal imaging then, you know, because you'd be able to see it's a hotter spot right there, you know.
I think we should
break out the FLIR cameras, guys.
I think we should keep an eye on too what's going on in China, right? So China's really like,
yeah. And this just happened. What was the date on this? Do you know when this happened?
It started, I think, on the 7th. Hold on a second. November 17th is when it started.
And then this is the month, which is just China. The news in China is World changing. It's historic. This is a big
So
one.
it's still going then? Are they still walking in a circle? Or that was one of the questions in the chat, I think somebody asked.
Yeah, I was like,
Patricia.
I keep Googling it every day, and it seems like after about 14 days, there were no more reports of them circling that I could find. So, but I don't know.
All right.
What was the number of this pin again?
13.
That could be like, you could also, I mean, of course, it's been.
It's lucky in Italy, 13 moons in the year.
Well, I mean, and you have the 12 disciples or apostles and Jesus, the 13th, or we even have a 13th sign now that's Ophiuchus that that's a Mandela Effect, or I'm not really sure if it's a Mandela Effect, but it's new, one way or the other.
You mean a 13th astrological sign?
Right. Ophiuchus.
In my
how
life,
did you pronounce it?
Ophiuchus.
Where does it fit in? Where does it fit?
Apparently, it was, I think it's December. It was just left out in the past. They just left it out.
Wait, where does it squeeze in?
I believe it's in December.
Like between Sagittarius and Capricorn?
Yeah, because now I used to be a Capricorn. According to this new symbol, now I'm a Sagittarius.
It backs me up into Pisces, and I'm an Aries.
Wow.
Yeah.
Same way with me. Yeah, I'm a Pisces now instead of an Aries.
You too. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Back to both
March
of them.
30th. Yeah, because I'm just a couple of weeks before you.
I was mid-Aries, April 13. I'm literally mid-Aries.
Wait, when did you guys hear about this? I have not heard about this.
It's been a couple
This is
years.
live, you guys. Mandela Effect's live. Welcome to our reality, Cynthia.
When did this happen?
It seems like 3 Christmases ago for me, about.
Roughly.
Oh, okay. What's it? What's this? Okay, just 13th sign. I'll look it up. Okay.
Yeah, it's like the symbol for Capricorn used to be a goat. Now it's a goatfish. Yeah.
So it changed along with that. Okay.
Close to.
I didn't. Oh wow, interesting. Yeah. Okay.
In my life DIY in the chat, the other Heather that people keep getting confused with Heather, points out that the sheep are moving to the right. Everyone we've seen, including the humans, are spinning to the right.
So this is a clockwise pattern, as we're describing as seen from above.
And we did talk about the human spinning, but that's in our Patreon video.
I'm wondering if there's a hemisphere connection because water going down the drain goes clockwise in one hemisphere, counterclockwise in the other. So you can tell which hemisphere you're in based on that.
True.
Didn't even think about that.
We need a pin 13, like just over the equator, right?
Right.
Is that the northern hemisphere or the southern?
Yeah, China's northern.
China's northern, yeah. So
it's going in the direction we'd expect it to see for the northern.
The same as the water going down the drain, right?
Yes, I think so. That's a good question. We can Google that and check.
It sounds pretty bad. The same way we flush down the toilet.
Patricia Gallagher, it's a good possibility that you're not an Aries anymore. Very good possibility. Sorry, I want to go ahead and answer that there. So I think we have kicked a dead sheep long enough on this topic. Let us skip on over to the next slide. Producer brought up supernumerary rainbows, ladies and gentlemen. This here, absolutely fascinating. So these can only be described in essence of waves. They show up like this, the literally multiple rainbows. It actually goes back to the double slit experiment. These breaks in between them is the interference pattern of the different light waves bouncing off each other. This can only be caused when the rain droplets are all exactly the same size.
So you're saying this is what all rainbows look like when you're not looking at them, then? And then you collapse them down into a single rainbow? Somebody
it's not far off, actually. That description right there isn't far off at all.
And usually we'd see like double rainbows where they start reversing the colors. In this case, we don't. It just continues.
Oh, that's true. That's
kind
a great
of a stack
observation.
effect.
Yeah.
You know what feeling it gives me is it's almost like you're looking at different timelines.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
It's almost like if you take a camera and point it at the monitor that you're
or the mirror. Yeah.
That
Divergent picture that's so famous with all the.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, it's like the same type of thing. It's like we're almost like the rainbow is showing us different timelines. So that's the first thing that comes to me.
That's wild. I've never seen anything like this. This
Yeah.
would be really something. And they're all bright. I mean, they're like really vivid. It's amazing.
Yeah, when I'm looking at these new rainbows too, I'm always looking at the sequence of colors, because a lot of them seem to be the opposite of the human chakra system, with red should be at the bottom and purple at the top.
Yes.
So so these are still the traditional looking rainbows that always have red at the top. So, but on some of the other rainbows that we've seen, like the double rainbow, the phenomena reverses itself, and we see it. Usually the bottom part or the top one has the one that's more related to the way the chakra system works. And to me, that's related to our eye and our retina flipping the image. And I think at some point, like I said, that we're going to be able to see more of the truth of our reality. And these types of things they're all giving us clues about what's going to be happening.
And we've discussed before, Chris, you and I will see what's almost like the shimmering, right? Like where you see like iridescence like everywhere. It's like your eyes are picking up like iridescence just in the air. And then you look at it and it's like, wait, where is it? But it's there. It's like, I don't know. So if anybody else is perceiving lots of iridescent rainbows like everywhere, and it's really subtle, but both Chris and I had discussed this a while back that we were both experiencing that, especially when you look up at the sky and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this is another very hopeful symbol too. It's a sign of hope and all possibility. And like Chris, like you said, the timeline possibilities is like, no matter what things look like, it's a very fresh message just from a few days ago, 3 days ago. This just happened. And I've never heard of this supernumerary rainbow effect. So for me, it's a new sky phenomenon.
This just came to us, last night?
Yeah. And I've never seen anything like this before. I never heard of it. And it's interesting that it's the drops of not crystals, but raindrops. So it's precipitation of some sort, but this time equally sized. So it seems very like there's a symbolic message there too.
If I saw this, I would probably go live immediately and say, I found the Rainbow Bridge. It's like right over here. You guys get here quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that is amazing. That's just wild.
Totally.
But for the first time in a while, it is not caused by ice crystals from cirrus clouds.
Right. Or swamp gas. Right?
Water drops.
Right. Water droplets this time. They didn't quite ice up enough for this one. But they all have to be the exact same size.
Yes.
How often you get that? You don't. I was in a rainstorm literally yesterday, and I had little bitty droplets, and I had drops the size of my thumbnail. I swear to God, they were huge.
That's beautiful.
You don't have that consistency generally in rainstorms, so you don't normally see something like this. But again, the fact that it's waves, it goes back to the double slit experiment and the light, and it's just really, really fascinating to me this year.
Yeah, and it's like a rainbow corridor, which is like perfect for the New Directions theme that we have going on this month for this episode.
Absolutely, I agree. Pretty neat that we come across this just last night. Literally,
a lot of stuff just came together right at the end. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was like,
super cool.
We had 4 strings going at one point.
Yes.
So much fun getting these shows together through the month. You'd be amazed the conversations we have and the stuff we come across through the month, guys. It's incredible working with this great team.
And thank you guys for sending us stuff. Yeah, we really appreciate that.
And we get all our stuff from you. Yes. Let me break in there. Shane, I'm glad you brought that up. You guys are the reason that we do what we do. This was formed, created of, by, and for the community. That was the whole point of the Mandela Effect Conference. And we need your help, community. If you would like to support us and support what we're doing, help keep us going, you can donate to us here in the Super Chat if you'd like, as well as a number of other ways if you check our website. But if you would like to donate to us, ladies and gentlemen, as a 501c3, your donations are tax deductible. So do make sure you keep your receipts if you decide to donate. We have been doing this for a couple years now. We are working on getting back together in person eventually. That those talks have begun in the background. So I can tell you guys we will have some information coming up on that eventually. But again, if you would like to donate here in YouTube, by all means, we appreciate it. Also, our Patreon, ladies and gentlemen, we have special content you will only find on Patreon. We have more content from this morning's green screen episode to put up there. So do go over, sign up for Patreon. You'll get all of the backstage green screen conversations that we put up. They're only on Patreon. That's another donation to us if you would like to help us out once again. So there's many, many ways you can help us keep doing this for you guys. Again, we are of, for, and by the community. We are supported by the community. You're the only people we are supported by. We don't have corporate sponsors. We don't have none of that craziness. So any help you guys give us is more than appreciated. Overprotected 1111 shooting in with a woo sticker, 19.99. Thank you so much, Overprotected. That does really mean a lot to us. Shout out to you.
And thank you for all the wonderful things you send us as well, Sherry. Overprotected.
And like Shane said, most of these stories come from you guys. You guys send them to us and we go, hey, did you see this? What is this, guys? Check this out. I can't count the emails where somebody has forwarded me an email that has been sent to them and a topic that we end up covering. So we thank you guys so much. We do this for you guys and we enjoy it. We can't get enough of it. Not going to lie. We love doing this for you guys, but we have to be able to. So thank you, Shane, for letting me jump in there with that and throw that out there real quick. Anything else on the current topic, sir?
Like next slide. We
Next
still have some
slide.
good stuff. Yeah.
Oh boy.
More JFK anomalies. Now we know the original JFK anomalies, like the fact it looks like she did it now. The fact that I'm just saying that's my opinion. Like that it's all in color. I did find a single black and white clip the other day. I was really amazed that I was able to find that. But it's hard to find anything black and white anymore. It's all in color now. It's been many changes we have noted. But there's more. But wait. There's more.
And here's another example of possibly, Chris has been digging into the JFK thing and he's creating more stuff. It's like, quit it, Chris. What are you doing here?
Yeah, so,
Chris, what did you bring us this time on JFK? What did you do?
I swear there is so I was really amazed when the two other Zapruder type films came out. The Marie Much More film was one of them. And the Orville, I forget what his last name is already, or Orville something.
Mm-hmm.
He had a film that came out, shot the same time as Zapruder, but from different angles. Orville Nix, sorry, that's what his name is. So now, there was some stuff. November 22nd was the anniversary of the assassination, and I was reading about the story of the Franzen family. And how they were right in front of JFK when he was shot. And that picture at the top right shows Jeff Franzen, who was 6 years old at the time. He was right there when it happened. And it says that he described it as confetti coming out of JFK's head. Now, in all the stuff I'd ever looked at, I never heard about the Franzen family being right there. Jeff Franzen being 6 years old at the time. That's completely brand new. So that's one part of it. And then the other part is that there's now 3 witnesses that came forward saying that they saw Oswald fire his rifle from the book depository.
What?
What?
It's funny. The description is that he was a balding man, man going bald, had some kind of a rifle that was poking out the window. And of course, some people are like, oh, the description kind of sounds like Jack Ruby, but that's another story. So, but having these 3 eyewitnesses that came forward, one was a 16-year-old boy, one was an unemployed person. I forget who the other person was. So they're all kind of suspect witnesses to begin with. But so the story gets even more intriguing. And then there's this whole thing about how when Oswald was arrested at the theater, there were these police lineups that they put him in. And I was looking at this discussion, in my feed, there's a site called Quora with a Q that came up. And they were talking about the photo on the bottom right because people were saying that was a fake photo. It never happened. It's actually a colorized photo from something that was taken at the police station. But this Oswald was really upset because he was in a police lineup with these teenagers that were dressed differently from him. And he was like the older person wearing a t-shirt, and they were teenagers in button-down shirts. And he's like, that's not fair, you know, that kind of a thing. So there's like, the more you look into these things, and as the timelines keep coming together, it's like really, really interesting how could this have been overlooked in all of my research? Could I have overlooked like the little boy that was right there? You know, could I have overlooked the testimony of these 3 witnesses that saw a gun being fired from the depository? You know, et cetera, et cetera. The list keeps going on and on with the JFK assassination, which makes sense when you consider merging timelines include more data, they include more information. So,
or more people researching it.
Yes, but these are things that were part of the, part of the trial and so forth that happened after the JFK assassination. So there's just so much, and it almost makes you dizzy, really, all the stuff that's coming out that I was never aware of before.
Real quick, jumping topic, JD Peterson with a $10 super chat. $10 #1 fan, says JD Peterson.
Thank you.
We appreciate that, JD, so very much. That really does mean a lot to us. Anybody who super chats, thank you so very much. All right, back to the anomalies. Thank you, Heather. Back to the anomalies. This last one here, I've never heard this. I've never heard of any of this, of course, but this last one here especially. By the way, the 3 witnesses, it was always in question. There was no witness. There was no, he did this, I seen it. It was always, well, did Oswald do it? Nobody really seen it. It's questionable. It might be the right guy, possibly not. And of course, when Jack Ruby did what he did, we never found the answer. But I don't remember there ever being witnesses, including, and again, they may have missed it, I was a huge Quantum Leap fan. Matter of fact, that's where I learned a lot about Harvey Oswald. Because of that show, they did a whole like multi-leap series about him, and he was Lee Harvey Oswald. He was trying to show the back and forth and who his life story. Really, really neat. I learned a lot about it. But again, that was never a thing. The 3 witnesses were never there. That was never brought up. It was never, again, it was a TV show. May have missed that. But once again, I never heard of this. Even in normal reality, it never become a thing. And this last one here really is interesting because I don't remember getting to line up. I don't remember him ever making it to line up, folks. They had him in cuffs in the basement. Ruby come in, and that was that. That's what I remember. Oswald apparently, though, gets upset because other people in the lineup are teenagers and don't look anything like him. He has on a T-shirt where they all have button-ups on.
Wow. So maybe the things are changing with this whole scenario. Some people had always said that certain events in history can't be changed. I don't know if you guys have heard that theory, but one of the things that they say can't be changed would be this event right here, the JFK assassination. And here we are talking about, but we're seeing so many changes in this event that can't be changed.
Well, it seems like somebody's trying, doesn't it? It's like, man, they try and try again for this event. Same way with, the other one with the 9 and the 11 in it.
Right.
We got that big hotel and they're like trying everything. I don't know. It's like
but the event itself does.
Right, it doesn't go away, does it?
The event itself still does occur. If my tongue would please work for the rest of the show, it'd be great.
Everything they try to stuff more people in the car just gets longer. You know what
I mean? You're so funny, Shane. It's hilarious.
That's a valid point, though. It really is. Speaking of points, good point over here in the chat. Gina Marie with a $10 super chat and a thanks sticker. She says thanks. Thank you, Gina Marie, for both your super chat and for being here with us at all. We very, very much appreciate it. Thank you, guys. But yes, JFK.
Well, what do you guys think? Do you think it's possible to change these events that can't be changed? Do you think we're talking about dinosaurs coming back? What about this big event? Is it possible that maybe there could be a moment at some point where JFK is not killed. And, what do you think?
Possible or probable?
Possible. Let's just leave it at possible.
Yeah, anything's possible. I'd say possibility, given what we've seen. It's definitely not out of the purview of possibility to me.
Well, we're already seeing confetti. I'd say that's a step in that direction, right?
Well, let me argue that real quick. The boy was 6 years old and he's seen brains flying out of a head. That's probably going to be confetti to him.
Right. And popping sounds of fireworks or whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You're talking about a 6-year-old's purview of the world. That's not exactly the same we would have,
Right. But I'm just asking because there's so many changes. Like, this is amazing, Chris. All of this is new. And every time we bring this topic up, you keep doing this. You keep bringing more stuff that I've never heard of. And now it's starting to get wild. Lineup photos. Wow. Witnesses.
JD Peterson in the chat says, I don't think JFK will come back, but I do think circumstances and people definitely can change.
Yeah, I think all these things are giving us clues really to the way reality works. What is history?
Right.
This we could really go down the rabbit hole talking about this type of thing, and the concept of like what do we really remember? What really is the past? How much of that can be manipulated? There's just so many different things. Who's doing the manipulation? Why are they doing the manipulation, etc.? Will this finally end? Yes, I think it will. So all these different, So again, just clues as to what's going on in the reality. Certain sides trying to manipulate, like playing chess, trying to manipulate different types of outcomes for what they're trying to get. Yeah. So.
In that movie yesterday, John Lennon was alive. So that was something that happened in the movie. And we haven't yet seen John Lennon. We mentioned John Lennon. We've got him in the black suit instead of the white. But maybe some of these changes are indicating activity there too.
Very well may be.
Yeah.
Very, very fascinating. There was something I was going to say, and I totally lost my train of thought. So, yeah, there's that.
That would be interesting to have John Lennon back,
But what if, maybe not JFK, but JFK Jr.? The plane crash, the interesting plane crash.
Right.
Perhaps he'll come back in reality. We've got a lot of people looking in on that. And if you, just a side note, anybody that followed the Q boards, I didn't follow them per se as far as believing them. I did follow them to see what they said. But anybody who did follow that knows that they even suggested time travel was a possibility that they had been using. It was kind of hinted at and suggested, if you will. I'm not 100 on that, but I know that they did say something about it.
But those agendas are collapsing. We can't prove it, but it ties in with the stuff Chris mentioned earlier, things dovetailing between some of these very interesting reports from deep inside government sources and people remembering things. So there's interesting stuff happening.
Nolan 412 says the JFK and Lincoln coincidences are something. Have you guys looked into that? How, I don't know, like the secretary names were the same, and like he was in the Ford Theater, but I don't know. There was like some, or and Kennedy Theaters. What was it? There was like about 9 or 10 weird.
Shot in the Kennedy Theater, I think it was, and then Kennedy was shot in the Lincoln or something.
Right, yeah, something like that. Yeah, just real weird stuff. And they were like 100 years apart or something,
There's a long list. The WWII Files YouTube channel did a little short on that the other day, which we've heard it, I'm sure, dozens and dozens of times. But that's recently been put out on YouTube, that whole list of coinky dinkies in a little YouTube short. The WWII Files is what the channel is called. Really neat channel. I enjoy it.
Do you think it's possible? Somebody in the chat, let's see, Patricia Gallagher says, I'm waiting for Elvis to return. What do you think? Do you think, like, how big of do you have to be before there's no way to return, like Mandela Effect style? Because, could Michael Jackson or Prince or,
usually
Elvis, some of the biggest.
Yeah.
Some say Elvis is actually a preacher now.
Well, Chris has noticed people like the astronauts coming back with the same names, similar visages. They look similar, but they're in different lines of work. So that's interesting. So if you're willing to accept that kind of a timeline, then maybe that could happen. what I notice with reality is it seems to like plausible deniability.
Right.
So it's kind of like if you're not looking very closely, if it's on the periphery of your visual attentive awareness, then it's more likely to come back.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, let's jump on over now that we've covered that so we don't make any more JFK changes ourselves accidentally. Not to say that we might not have already. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to our next slide. McDonald's. Okay, we have a question for you, chat. I don't know the answer one way or the other. Did not follow this particular person. Was not sure. Who was the founder of McDonald's? Ray Kroc with a C like crocodile, or Ray Kroc with a K like KROC? What do you guys think? Well, they're discussing that. We can get their answers here in a minute because it's going to take a minute to get through the whole system. What do you guys remember? Chris, starting with you.
Yeah, so this is something that just came into my awareness because I always remember him, Ray Kroc, being with a C. So, quantum businessman, business, franchises, all that kind of stuff. And so when this happened, I saw him being referred to with a K. I went online and I found like people referring to him CROC the way I remember, but everything official is KROC. So at Thanksgiving, I asked my father about it. And I'm like, Dad, what do you remember how his last name was spelled? And immediately he said CROC, like immediately. So it wasn't, and I told him now it's KROC. So that was, he's like, what? KROC doesn't make any sense. So yeah. So for me, that's the way I always remember it. And yeah. And, it's funny the way the reality gives us clues about people as well. Because when you look at someone like Ray Kroc's Akashic Records and his DNA lineage, he actually was related to a genetic type of reptilian crocodile species, a royal crocodile species. So it's funny how his name was Ray Kroc, Ray Crocodile. So again, it's like these really interesting things, clues that sometimes are right in front of our face that we have no idea about. We're like, that can't be. But yeah, there they are. So yeah, I remember with the C.
Shane?
I didn't know either way. Yeah.
I'm right there with you on that one. Don't feel alone. I'm right there with you. I couldn't say either way. Cynthia?
I knew what a number 1 was, but I didn't.
This one for me, I wouldn't know for sure. I might have leaned toward the K, so it's not a big one for me either.
I personally don't eat that poison, that food.
Do you guys remember McDonald's, MAC Donald's?
I don't.
I didn't remember that at first, but when I saw somebody reproduce the old logo, I'm like, I remember that. It gave me like childhood nostalgia of being with my dad, leaving church and seeing that sign. So it's been like since the 70s that it's been the new version for me.
Wow.
It's weird. It changed a long time ago for me.
For me too. Like I'm not even sure if it changed, but if it did, you're right. It would be like the late 60s or early 70s that it changed.
Yeah. All right, Heather, sure. you ready to do a run real quick? Raider champion from California, KROC. He says he also owned the Padres, Mr. Kroc did. So there you go. Next up, Overprotected 1111 says, I thought his name was Ronald McDonald and they named the clown after him.
That's probably what I thought too. I'm right there with you, Sherry. Look, wait, it wasn't Ronald McDonald? Who's this Kroc guy?
When I would see it as a kid, I'd always sing Old MacDonald Had a Farm because I'd always see the McDonald. So I always thought they named I thought he was the farmer.
That's funny.
Overprotected says, I love a quarter pounder once in a while. That makes one of us overprotected. I won't eat there. I won't. I refuse to eat at McDonald's. I will eat anywhere else, but I refuse to eat at McDonald's just because the food is. Anyway, they didn't do that wrong. Like they didn't just earn my service. Their food is just trash. In my opinion, my sole opinion, that is Jerry's opinion, not the opinion of IMEC.
Sponsored by Burger King.
Oh, I love it. That's too funny.
IMEC doesn't eat any burgers, so we're good.
But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Ray Kroc, K-R-O-C or C-R-O-C. And I'm with the one that said Crocs are shoes. That's
Right.
the Kroc that I knew right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a movie too that came out maybe 4 or 5 years ago called The Founder, and it was the story of Ray Kroc. So
Oh, Kroc. I mean, all right, ladies and gentlemen, with that said, let us bounce on out to our next slide. And I just froze, didn't I? Yes, I did.
You're back.
IMEC mailbag. Who's got this one?
Jackie sent this in to us. She says, ME, my daughter shared this with me in Instagram, sorry. Frost flower or ice flower. And I thought this was a great addition since we had the ghost apples, which was created by a strange weather phenomenon. This is the same thing. This is these weird, strange ice crystals that seem to form when the weather's in the right condition. And it's like, I guess the water oozes out of the stem and then freezes as it's coming out. So it'd be cool to see a time lapse image or something, But all I had was these.
The picture on the right looks like a flower a little bit. Yeah.
Looks very delicate,
It does. Looks
still very amazing. And thank you so much, Jackie, for sending this in. This is a good.
I stand corrected. I said earlier, up to this point, we hadn't seen anything else like it.
Here we go, right?
Here we go. There is stuff besides apple, ladies and gentlemen. Flowers, frozen flowers. So when you break up with your ex, send them a bouquet of frozen flowers. That ought to get the point across.
Be a wet envelope or a wet box by the time it gets there.
Oh, I bet that'd really get the point across, wouldn't it?
Yeah, right.
Anyway, before I go way off the deep end on that, very fascinating. I've never seen a flower frozen in time like this. Have you guys ever seen anything like this before?
No, never. So this is new to me too.
Yeah.
I might have to take a walk in a garden when it starts freezing out here, right? See how many frozen items I can find that match their old item.
Yeah, check for new fruits and flowers and all sorts of things made of ice, right?
A rose. Wouldn't that be neat? An ice rose? All like, oh, that would be so cool.
That is cool. Because if you think about it, you could come up with some, the way they have the little Play-Doh kind of things, you could come up with something where when the water expands, it gets pushed out and create some kind of art like that. You could probably create something like that, stick in the freezer and get a bouquet of roses, ice roses in the morning type thing. I don't know. It's interesting.
All right. Who let Elsa loose in this world?
Right.
For those who get it, you get it, right?
If you've actually watched Frozen, yes.
There you go. You got the reference. There you go. Frozen.
I figured it out. It took me a few seconds. I catch
Don't
on
worry,
quick.
I've only seen a few more minutes of it than you. We're on the same page.
Yeah, right. I know you binge watch it.
Every day. Are you kidding me?
Oh, my goodness.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our mailbag. If you want to be part of our mailbag, feel free to send us any kind of ME evidence you find, MEs that you've run across, anything you find interesting that you think we would find interesting. Go ahead and send it on over to team@imec.world. That is TEAM@IMEC.WORLD. That's right, team@imec.world. We always love hearing from you guys. Noted, Chris. So do send that over. Maybe you'll make it in the next month's mailbag, or at least have your slide made. Had a slide made for your particular topic, as we've seen many times throughout the show today. A lot of these come from you guys, ladies and gentlemen. Last but not least, I think we have Q&A, correct?
Oh, yeah, I think we do have some questions. Oh, wait, sorry.
Before that, I keep forgetting where we place this slide. We keep moving this thing.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, special shout out to our Patreons. I mentioned earlier, you can catch us over on Patreon. You will get exclusive, I will repeat that, exclusive content that you will only find on Patreon. And if you find it elsewhere, let us know so we can get rid of it elsewhere. It is a small amount of money to be a part of it, of course, but you will get to see our green room, our green room. I think it was green screen. Green room conversations before the show, all the stuff we discuss, things we cannot discuss on the major platforms. So there are little nuggets in there that you're not going to get elsewhere, folks. Do check us out like these folks here. A very, very special thank you to our current Patreon subscribers, Jason Ram, Jody, Colleen Learley, James, JD Peterson, who threw us a super chat over here on YouTube. Shout out to JD. Josiah Boricius. I apologize if I just ruined these names, folks. Paul Ellis, Michelle Walker with an A, Bo Kem, Allison Eastman, Gail Brown, Luisa Diaz, and Ray, or Rhea, however that is pronounced. We appreciate every last one of you guys. If you want to be a sponsor, go on over to patreon.com/IMEC. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. And the link is also in the chat over here on YouTube. So do check that out, folks. We appreciate every last one of our sponsors. For you, by you, and because of you guys, we are able to do this. You are fully funding our operation. Again, there are no corporate sponsors. Everything we've done has been out of our own pockets. So we really appreciate everything you guys do to help us out. And remember, we are gearing up for another live in person. That is going to cost a little bit of money to get going. So do make sure that if you would like to see us live in person, go ahead and help us out. Throw us some donations. We very much appreciate every last one of you guys in the community. Our last show of the year, the end of season 2, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations if you've caught all the episodes throughout the year. Season 2 ends in December with the IMEC Open Table Season 2 Episode 12. That'll be Wednesday, December the 21st. Uh-oh.
End of the world.
End of the world as we know it, right? 2022, ladies and gentlemen, come on out. Check us out. Set your calendars. December 21st, 2022, IMEC will be back on the scene, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Moving on. Time for questions. So we have had a couple questions that have come up in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. We've been recording them and keeping an eye on them. And let me back up here, see if I can find the first question that we had. Here we go. The first question was from Joe Bloor. Says, any one of y'all gonna be in the Mandela Effect documentary?
I don't know yet.
So I can tell you we are reaching out to them. I actually have a meeting with him later on today after this. So there are things in the works that we can't say much right now. We can't promise anything, but I have a sneaky suspicion that we may find our way in there. I'm just saying. Nothing's in stone yet, folks, but I think the possibility is highly, highly there.
Everything's possible, though.
Everything's possible, especially when it comes to this phenomenon. We're also going to try to reach out to him for a couple other things. So you guys may very well be seeing him hanging out here with us one day if we're lucky. We do appreciate that question, Joe Bloor. Next question. I did not get who asked this question. I do apologize. It's for Chris. Chris, have you seen the information regarding all this? Billy McGilly, thank you, regarding all of the UAP activity near southern Kansas?
I haven't. No. So I'd be interested to find out more. And why southern Kansas of all?
Well, you were just there, Chris.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, well,
I'm not far from there. So yeah, we got a CE5 event, like a global event coming up where people are meeting in different areas. So if there's some action going on in southern Kansas, I would love to drive up there. I forgot what day it is. I think the 9th maybe of December. It's coming up pretty quick, like within the next week or so. So
what's the CE5?
It's the close encounters, the 5th kind, where you actually go out and use your intentions to actually call in UFO or craft.
Is that working on Dr. Greer's?
Yeah, exactly. He started that. But there's small groups everywhere that aren't really related. They're organized into smaller cells of just different areas. But that sounds like a great spot, southern Kansas.
Yeah, you wonder if any of that activity too is around Monument Rocks.
Right.
Going to some other places.
You're doing some portal checks in that area, right?
Yeah, I think that's actually towards the north of the state, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So were you in southern Kansas, Chris?
Yeah, I was actually all over the state. Yeah. And one of the secret places I went to, I believe, was in, I'll have to look it up. It was at least towards the middle of the state, but yeah.
All right, moving on. Mustard Seed of Faith says, didn't they activate CERN recently again? There are animals all over the world going around in circles, literally. Has anybody else heard of this? Of course, we covered this a little bit after this question was answered, but do you think it has something to do with CERN, guys? That's a good question.
I did hear that CERN was just powered down to save electricity. Because they use electricity and so much helium. And actually right now there's a worldwide helium shortage, and helium is used in MRI machines. It's used for making fiber optic cable.
I bet their carbon credits are through the roof.
Yeah, and CERN actually I'll call it hoarding, but they have most of the helium.
Thanks a lot. No party balloons, CERN.
Yeah, it makes a big magnet spin around the collider, like on a cushion of helium. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to the idea that something CERN has done, or even turning CERN off has caused such a massive change that it could be affecting it. Not guaranteed, but I'm definitely not against that idea myself.
All right, I like that idea. Yeah.
Anybody else want to chime in?
Yeah. I have no idea about this connection here. Interesting to contemplate it. I don't have any idea.
Mm-hmm. What?
Bye, Jerry.
Maybe we can see if there's any other questions. I think there were some questions. Oh, here we go.
Yeah. The next one is from Luisa Diaz.
Yes.
Question for Chris. Do you provide consultations? That's something I just started doing, actually. And I put some dates up on my calendar on my website. And I think they're all been taken already. But I'll probably put some more dates coming up in January, February. So yeah, something that I'm going to start to do. I don't really have a lot of time, but I'll do that every once in a while. So thank you for asking. I appreciate it.
This is Teresa Richards. What does the golden age look like for each of you? I try to envision it when I go to sleep at night. So Shane, do you want to start? Or any idea?
Oh, I don't know. Everything's been such a surprise for me that I don't really apply too many expectations onto it. I just have like you talk about, Cynthia, how good can it get? I know it's going to be great. It's going to exceed anything I can ever imagine. So I don't think I'm even capable of seeing what I think it's going to be like, imagining it, you know. I think the moment we imagine it, there it is. I think that's like, you know what I mean? It's kind of how it works. So
it shows up. Yeah. What about you, Chris?
Yeah. So for me, it's higher frequency bandwidth. So everything is higher frequency. Super manifestation.
Check.
Yeah.
We
can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's not
hear
coming
you,
in through your mic. Yeah, I don't think it's coming through that mic. But maybe it is. Maybe it is.
It's coming from the other mic. I know where it's coming from. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Chris.
Yeah. So basically, your dreams coming true and living the life that you want to live, and not being weighed down by all of the weights that this world has put on us. It's like we'll be able to take off all these winter coats that we've been wearing in the desert and shedding them off one by one and being like, this is what life was supposed to be about. So yeah, having all of those really positive thoughts about what could be. And yeah, so that's a little bit of what I think about with the golden timeline, that highest timeline frequency will be like.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah, I do keep it open-ended. I don't really specifically visualize anything. But having said that, there's always the subconscious feeling that we'll be moving toward more openness, more community, more empathy, more kindness, more respect, just all the highest principles, honesty, integrity, love, those good things. And it seems to me like when I see the news and it looks other than that, it looks like we're just shaking out the, just a big shake up to loosen that stuff off, release it. But I think we're moving that direction. I see evidence of it all the time. And Jerry, if you're back, you can answer the question. This is Teresa Richards. What
Golden
does the
Age, Jerry?
Yeah, Golden Age? How do you envision it? Do you?
That's a really good. Well, clearly my mic's not working anymore.
Now we can't hear you.
I think that was it, actually.
That was working.
It was working.
Yeah,
Check. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's just, yeah, there we go.
So it is the main mic. That is so strange. I got some audio issues big time here, folks, so
Okay.
I do apologize. The Golden Age, I have thought about this a little bit. It seems to me like that would be just a time of no wars, no deep state, no craziness. Everybody is happy. Everybody is getting what they need. Everything is provided. Everything is abundant. I know it sounds somewhat socialist. I know, guys, that's not what I mean. That would be the Golden Age, though, where everything just happens to be going right. You don't have these wars and rumors of wars and all this negativity that we find right now around us in the world. That would be the Golden Age to me.
Beautiful. So we've answered that question. Any other questions in the chat? I think Heather was dropping them in there.
That was it as far as the question goes. Yeah, me and her have been working the whole show on grabbing these questions, so I do believe that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Do make sure that you tune in December 21st, 2022, the end of the world as we know it, for the next Mandela Effect mini conference, Open Tables, Season 2, Episode 12. I hope to see all of you guys there. You guys want to say your final goodbyes?
Bye.
Yeah, love you guys.
Love you guys.
That was a lot quicker than I expected that to go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Christopher, Anatra, the quantum businessman, Shane, unbiased and on the fence, Cynthia Sue Larson, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf. Together, we are the International Mandela Effect Conference. And remember, until next we meet, ladies and gentlemen, together we go. Together we grow. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Love you. Bye.